The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio.
We have ways of making you talk.
Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl, but she doesn't have a lot to say. Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl, but she changes from day to day. I wanna tell her that I love her a lot, but I gotta get a belly full of wine. Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl, someday I'm gonna make her mine. Yeah, we only need like and she changes from day to day. I wanna tell her that I love her a lot, but I gotta get a belly full of wine. Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl, someday I'm gonna make her mine. Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl, but she changes from day to day. Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl, but she doesn't have a lot to say. I wanna tell her that I love her a lot, but I gotta get a belly full of wine. Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl, someday I'm gonna make her mine. Yeah, someday I'm gonna make her mine. Wanna tell her that I love her a lot, but I gotta get a belly full of wine. Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl, someday I'm gonna make her mine. Yeah, yeah, someday I'm gonna make her mine.
Oh 03 444 99 1000. Wow!
That was a dick.
Are you mad?
Sitting on a windowsill, but he spends his time behind closed doors.
Champicone.
You're a pervert. I'm David Babcock and I got my willy stuck in the hoover.
Do you want me to do it for you? Rub it in. 03 444 99 1000.
Language TV.
03 444 99 1000.
I am far... Shut up! The song's not finished! I am coming to the conclusion that the Talking Heads, I think, are the best band of all time. I think. We just had a little Talking Heads moment outside, Catherine and I don't mean Thora Hird doing Alan Bennett. We had Road to Nowhere. We had...
Once in a Lifetime.
Yes. Song used to terrify me as a kid. Absolutely terrify me. I heard it once.
It ever was.
I heard it once in my bedroom. A little transistor radio. I asked for a CB, but my parents wanted me a transistor radio, and I was like, "Oh, that's great. It's not what I wanted." And one night it was dark, and it was probably Sunday. It was probably the chart show, and I heard Once in a Lifetime playing, and I cacked my pants. Songs that scared you. 03444991000. Does it sound all right in your ears? Because I'm using slightly different headphones and it doesn't sound all right.
It sounds a bit funny.
It sounds medium wave. Mm-hmm. It sounds medium wave. Amy, have you flicked the medium wave button? There must be a medium wave button. I think you've flicked it, Amy. What have you done?
I don't know.
You flicked the medium wave button, which is how speech radio should be heard. Slightly tinny and slightly compressed. So well done. You've done the right thing. We got guests aplenty this evening, so if you want to get your calls in, get them in now or get them in late. 10:30, Chris Warburton talking about Wake Up to Waco. That's what it's called, Catherine.
It's called End of Days.
11 o'clock, we've got Stephen Tobolowsky just talking about life, acting, and Steven Seagal. So if you want to get your calls in, get them in now. 03444991000 is the telephone number. Songs that scared you as a kid. But I think the Talking Heads, to give them their full title, let's be respectful. Let's do that. I think they're the greatest. I'm beginning to think they're the greatest band in the world. I do need to reevaluate when they get funky. They did get towards the end. They got funky, and it's kind of like a weird white New York artsy funk. You know, the funk I can dig. Hey, whoa, I can dig. I'm a soul brother.
Do you mean like new wave?
No, I mean, they went proper funky, but there's still a New York white angular vibe to it. I don't know if Tina Weymouth, Chris Frantz, David Byrne, obviously. Oh, who's the drummer? Tina Weymouth is the bass player. Chris Frantz. No, it was Chris Frantz. No, Chris Frantz is the guitarist, isn't he? Tina Weymouth is married to the drummer. They were in the Tom Tom Club, of course, which was their spin-off group. What was his name? Boom, boom, boom. Anyway, if anyone knows the name of the drummer from the Talking Heads, 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. It's going to be one of those shows today. Yesterday was World Radio Day. Catherine, what did you do to celebrate it?
Got paid to be on the radio.
Okay, yeah, me too.
Today's Valentine's Day.
Getting paid to be on the radio to celebrate. Yeah. Okay, I've been doing some thinking about this terrorist girl, the ISIS baby woman girl. Mm-hmm. Been doing some thinking about it, guys, so you don't have to. And I have the answer. Do you want the long answer, the short answer, or the short answer with a little explanation? What do you want, Catherine?
I would like the short answer with a little explanation.
Okay, great. I remember I've done this thinking, guys, I've been thinking about this all day for the last 23 hours, so you don't have to.
Because it is a puzzle.
Yeah. I have the answer. Here's the short answer with a little bit of explanation. We should allow her to come back into the country because don't forget, when she left, she was a 15-year-old child who'd basically been mentally raped by the sick ideology of ISIS. She was a kid and she was mentally abused, so we should let her back, see if we can work with her, see if we can help her in some way or other. If when she comes back she's still holding on to the ISIS ideology and after 6 months we haven't been able to change that, we send her back.
Because she's saying at the moment she doesn't regret that.
Fine, let's get her back over here. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a dialogue.
Can we not have a conversation with her somewhere
on Skype?
Safe?
No, you can. No. I think she should come back. She was a 15-year-old kid that was brainwashed and that was brutally mind raped. That's a phrase that sounds like I'm being flippant. I'm not. She was a kid. Let's bring her back. Let's bring her back. We'll have a little chat with her. Sit down. I'll have a chat with her and we'll work it out from there.
So she's been over there for 4 years?
Yep.
She's had 2 babies that died.
Uh-huh.
and she's got one at the moment.
Yeah.
She died of, she says, malnutrition.
Okay.
She's living in a Syrian refugee camp.
Yes.
She feels bad that she ran. She
Yep.
said that the people that stayed are the heroes.
Yeah. Yeah. She saw her head in a bin at the age of 16. Catherine, it's sorted. I've sorted. That's the answer.
Right.
I've done the thinking for you.
Okay, cool. Can I sort one out? A tricky one.
Go on.
Castor Semenya.
Beg your pardon.
Castor Semenya.
Yes.
Good runner.
Who's this?
This is the runner who, a few years ago at the Olympics, everyone was saying, she looks very manly. I think we should test her. And everyone said, you just back up.
Get her in the Pope chair.
Women come in all shapes and sizes. Leave her alone.
Ian and Richard, stay there. We'll come to you in a second. Yes.
Well, it turns out she has been examined now. And
Yes.
although she has always lived as a woman
Yep.
and identifies as a woman.
Many people do.
And is a woman, her genetic makeup is male.
Oh.
She does have testicles, but they haven't descended. They're inside her body.
Story of my life.
Right. So now they're talking about, and she is fighting this because she says she shouldn't have to. They're talking about making her have hormone blockers if she wants to continue to compete against other women.
We don't make people take drugs.
Here's what I think.
Do you think this is the Hans Island and Enter the Dragon?
None of what?
It's an obscure reference, but accurate.
None of this is her doing, right? None of this is her
It's
doing.
God's fault.
Well,
Let's send a nuclear missile to heaven and blow up
Believe
God.
it in God, she's been made that way.
I want to blow up God.
I think we should stop racing women against women and men against men.
Okay.
I think we should do like muscly ones against muscly ones.
Yes.
So she could go against, people of a similar build to her, and the little ones against the little ones.
Yep.
We should do it like boxing. It's what you weigh and how tall you are.
So height and weight.
Yeah.
You compete against each other.
Yeah, because I reckon she
I
could
agree.
probably beat most blokes.
I agree. Thank you. There's a problem solved. Anyone else has got a big issue that you want solving? We think about stuff, so you don't have to.
By the way, same goes with tennis.
Yep.
And then we can stop all that nonsense about, the blokes get more because they put more work in. All right, okay. Let's have same build, same build.
Yeah. Okay. I'm in. Simple. 0344 499 1000. Amy has texted. The laughing policeman scared the crap out of me as a kid. Amy, please watch your language. I was playing Apex Legends today. I won my first game. Thanks very much. You're welcome. And I was doing my thing of pretending I'm an American. I don't know why. And then a younger person started playing. You get randomly paired up with people. And I was going, hey, man, I don't recognise your accent. And I didn't recognise his accent. He wouldn't have recognised mine as it was made up. Turns out he was from Finland.
All right.
And
I know how they speak.
Go on.
I used to have a friend called Lotta, and she spoke like that.
Exactly. And then he was obviously a kid, right? So I was being on my bestest behaviour, no bad language. I was just having fun. I was saying it's nice to play, and we were kind of talking about tactics of the game. So I'm very responsible when I'm playing against a kid. And then he dropped an F-bomb. I said, whoa,
matey.
Whoa, man, hey, man, what the heck? Where the hell? How old are you, son? And he went, I'm 14. I said, you are not 14, you're 12. And he started giggling. He was 12. Mm-hmm. He was 12. So two issues arose. 12, and he dropped an F-bomb, and I chastised him. But also, I don't think 12-year-olds should be playing with 46, 45-year-old men.
Or vice versa.
I don't think... Well, no, exactly. I don't think that the system should be set up better to prevent that from happening. Most people on video games are responsible people. Right? Of course they are. But there'll be one or two dodge pots. There'll be one or two people... Here's a guy who used to love just going on and swearing and effing and jeffing. Mm-hmm. You get paired up with an American, they throw the N-bomb around like there's no tomorrow. I just think, mate, come on, PlayStation. Let's get a system where the 12-year-old kids can't play with 45-year-old men. Let's sort this out. We're just getting through the problems. Ian, Richard, stay there. You're going to be next. This is the late night alternative. No, I'm not going to give you the number. If you know it, you can call in. If you don't, tough. Ian Lee, Catherine Boyle, Talk Radio.
The Late Night Alternative with Ian Lee on Talk Radio.
Richard says, Ian and Kath, I remember being scared by a Cure video on the chart show when the dude in the makeup got enveloped by a big hairy spider. I wasn't talking about videos! I was talking about songs! Was there a part in the song that scared you? Or was it the video? Because if it was the video, you can get that VHS cassette and ram it up your jacksie! If it was the song, well, then that's great. That fits into our phone-in.
But thanks so much for your message. We do appreciate every single one. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
We've got a complaint. We've got a text from Tommy. Hi, Ian and Catherine. Read that joke you do at the start of the show about the boy putting his willy in a Hoover. And for anyone who doesn't know, that's this.
I'm David Babcock, and I got my willy stuck in a Hoover.
Oh, God, this is awful. It's not funny because my brother put his in a Dyson today and did quite a lot of internal damage. I've just called the hospital to check how he is. They said he seems to be picking up quite nicely now. OK, well, we're sorry, Tommy, for any offence that we caused. We didn't mean to cause any offence there. I was saying best of luck to your brother. Let's go to Iain. Good evening, Iain.
Yeah.
Come on now. Come on. Someone actually sent that in. Well done to them. Well done to them. I like that. That's good. Yes?
No, I just want to say about Talking Heads. I've been a fan for a long time. And they were when I was like 14, there was Remain in Light, which is probably their best album. And I bought it without hearing one track on it, just because I like the titles of the songs.
Yeah, go on. Well, what are the? By the way, you're wrong about it being their best album.
I'm not,
mate. Please, please. The best album is Little Creatures.
No.
It's any album that's got "And She Was" on there. A song about a girl taking LSD. I'm afraid is the best album.
No, it's not better than Houses.
What are you, some kind of Ryan Adams fan, huh? You come here because you want to really you talk about the Talking Heads, but really you want to defend Ryan Adams, a sick pervert? Is that what you're here for?
Well, yeah, something like that, probably.
Okay. I don't know that album. I've got a couple. I've got songs about shops and houses. I've
Building some food.
Yeah, that's it. I've got. By the way, sorry. Which one of us has been in David Byrne's hotel room?
I'm getting.
I bet she has. Mucky care. I have.
Who hasn't?
Yeah, that's true. Have you ever seen him live?
No.
He's good. I've seen him a couple of times. I saw him once at the Kentish Town Forum, and then once at the Dome in Brighton. He's good. He does a brilliant version of "I Want to Dance with Somebody."
Really?
He does. He really, really does. It's a great. I want to dance.
Is he wearing that suit when he does it? Is he wearing the big suit?
No, he's not wearing the. It doesn't wear the big suit anymore. I wonder where that big suit is. I'd love to see. Here we go. I mean, this is. If I remember correctly, the voice is a little ropey on this, but. Actually, it's not bad, is it?
No, I didn't like it.
Be quiet, you pervert.
Me?
You be quiet, pervert. Yeah, shut up.
My loneliness comes. I wanna dance with somebody.
That's dreadful, actually.
It's good, isn't it? It is good.
Really good.
I'm glad I'm not fond of that.
Sorry, what? I'm sorry, but the phone's breaking up, Ian. What did you say, mate? Sorry?
Yeah, I'm not fond of it.
So, Ian? I seem to have lost him. That's a shame. Let's go to Richard, who's maybe a sensible caller. Good evening, Richard.
Hello?
Hello, Richard. Is that Richard?
Right. You all right? Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, all right.
You're all right. I'm all right. We're all right. Let's get on with this. Let's get on with this. Where everyone's all right. Let's do it. Let's have a chat. Let's have a chitty chat. It's Conversation Corner Club. What have you got?
Chit Chat Club.
Scott, songs that scare you.
Yeah, go on.
Narrating by Prodigy.
Who?
Narrating by the Prodigy.
The Prodigy?
Prodigy.
Oh, the Prodigy. You said Prodigy.
Narrating.
Prodigy. Narrating. I don't know.
Narrating.
I don't know that one. Can you sing a bit?
Part of the Land album.
Could you sing?
Nama Narayana. Is that on it?
Oh, flipping it.
Oh, yeah, that sounds a bit demonic.
There's a voodoo chant. There's
another one, Mr. Kirk's Nightmare.
By the Prodigy again?
No, not Prodigy. I think it's For Hero.
Oh, For Hero.
Mr. Kirk, you have a son named Robert Cook, age 17. Yes, Mr. Cook, you've either come out of the station house. You said he's dead. Dead? How? He died of an overdose.
Oh, my.
Flipping
What is it called, Mr. Tug?
Mr. Kirk's Nightmare.
Mr. Kirk's Nightmare?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wicked tune.
It's about a guy dying from drugs.
Yeah, his son dies. 17-year-old kid dies in...
Well, you reminded me, actually, even though I was a little bit older, I was scared by
I was going to say that.
What was that?
There's a bit in that.
What was that? I was scared by that. In 1969, the average age of the Vietnam combat soldier was 19. All those who remember the war, they won't forget what they've seen. Destruction of men in their prime, whose average age was 19. Destruction! And didn't he release like a different mix of it every week, so it stayed at number one for 13 years?
I don't know, but me and my sister used to do a little dance to that.
Go on.
I can't do it, and we used to... The trumpet
Let's get
bit...
Vix on the line. Let's get Vix on the line.
The trumpet bit was a particular highlight.
Hang on a minute. So this guy, Richard. Yeah, it was the Cure video that scared me. But then when you hear the song, you remember the video. Well, that doesn't count, Richard. You were scared of the video, not the song. And the song may bring back memories of the video, but you're still ultimately being scared of this video. If you must know, I was scared of Peter's theme from Peter and the Wolf that my mum would play on record for me to go to sleep. And Sally said, I missed it. I've lost it now. That she was locked in. She was locked in the room at the age of 6 and made to listen to War of the Worlds. What? That's freaky, with the lights off. Richard, thank you for that, mate. Okay, there we go, he's gone.
The prodigy.
Well, that's your chance to phone in, gone for at least the next hour, hopefully the next 90 minutes. Unlucky. Unlucky. We had great calls, some of the best calls, apart from that Iain guy. But all the other calls...
Richard's texts were embarrassing.
Yeah, but that like Richard who called in was good.
Yeah.
There was not Richard's there. But that's just the way it works sometimes. We're gonna have We're gonna
have some guests.
So yeah, all right, let's do that. Let's chit chat with guests who are better than you. The people we're about to have on are better than you. I'm talking to the listener.
They're actually better than us.
They are, significantly so. They make me want to puke. They're so good.
They're better than him.
This is the Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee and Catherine Boyle.
The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio.
Oh, you missed some wicked ninja skills. I just remember it's Chris Frantz, of course, is the drummer from the Talking Heads, and Jerry Harrison is the guitarist. I just remembered that. And then Catherine was so angry with me just because of something I said. And she jumps to offence very quickly, that she threw my Nurofen at me, and she threw them. I raised my headphones to put them on my head. The Nurofen bounced off the headphones, went straight into the bin.
No, into your bag.
Straight into the bag, that's what I meant.
Like a trick shot it was.
Okay. Okay, dear listener. Now, you know us. We like to... Been on the hunt recently for new podcasts, and I think we found some great ones. At 11 o'clock, Stephen Tobolowsky. Okay, go and Google him. You'll recognise him from so many films. He's been in over 200 movies, which is insane. He does a great podcast, the Tobolowsky Files. I discovered it at the weekend. I did 4 of them in a day, and they're like over an hour each, and it's great storytelling. Great, funny, insightful. The band Radiohead is named after him. I know, it's nuts. So we found some really good podcasts recently. And ages ago, and it was a long, long time ago, I got an email from Chris Warburton, who's been on the show before, who was talking about the staircase murder. Was it a murder? Yeah.
Was it a raptor?
Was it a murder? Was it a raptor? Yeah, the guy murdered his wife. Not Chris Warburton. As far as I know, he's not been found guilty of any murders. No. Not been found guilty. There's the rub. And he sent me an email a while ago saying, I've got a new podcast out. If you get a chance, have a listen, and if you like it and you think I could come on the show, then please do. And as I do with all of my important emails, I go, I'll have a look at that when I've got a bit more time. Like 2 months went past, and suddenly it's one of those moments. I woke up in bed at like 4 in the morning. Oh shit! That email from Chris. Oh God! And so I listened, and it is such a good podcast. We're going to play a little trailer for it. Wake Up to Waco, I think it's called.
No, it's not.
What is it?
It's called End of Days.
He should change the name. It is great. It's the story of the 29, I think it is, 20, something like that, British people that went over to Waco and got involved in the whole David Koresh thing. You can find it on iTunes, on the BBC iPlayer. I wouldn't bother going to BBC Sounds. It's a car crash of an app. You can get it on Acast, all your usual podcast places, right? And it's well worth listening to, and I know a lot of you have. Let's have a listen to the trailer for the podcast, and then we'll have a word with Chris about it. So here we go.
The Wacos of Waco would like you and me.
This podcast is the story of a cult from the middle of nowhere in Waco, Texas, convinced that God's final judgment was coming to the earth. And at its centre, 30 people from Britain.
Really was just a cult group out in the country out there.
This wasn't Little House on the Prairie, all innocent and sweet, no. The psychological hold he had on some of those people was extreme. You know, they were brainwashed, pure and simple.
Why don't you learn the everlasting gospel? Why don't you believe Revelation 14? Why don't you fear God and give him glory?
There's a time I begged my daughter to leave so can't you see for yourself? Let's leave this place.
Let's send them out of that house right now. No.
The entire compound is just engulfed in flames.
I was thinking, my sister's in there, my aunt is in there.
This is their unbelievable story. This is End of Days.
And it's great. It's I think there's 8 episodes. They're about half an hour, 40 minutes each, and it's an amazing story and it's brilliantly told. And I believe we should have, fingers crossed. I never quite trust Skype. We've got Chris Warburton on the line now. Evening, Chris.
Evening, Ian. I don't trust it either, but it's working, right?
It's kind of working. Our next guest is going to speak to from LA, and we kind of toyed with the idea of doing Skype, and we both went, you know what? It ain't going to work. It's most Skype conversations. The first 5 minutes are, can you hear me? Is this? I don't think he can hear me. Chris,
yeah, well, exactly. But you know, I present on 5 Live, and I do it on the weekends.
Yeah.
And the amount of times that we have guests, and I say, can we please just get them on the phone?
Yeah.
Because every single damn time, Skype, or I know we're going to use FaceTime for this one.
FaceTime.
And I think, oh, come off it. Well, this is not the future.
I enjoy.
It's not the future. The phone is fine.
I'm going to enjoy the next 90 seconds of us being able to communicate, and then when you disappear, that's the end of that. Hey, listen, man, thank you so much for getting in touch about this, because this is a podcast that had totally bypassed me. Some of my listeners pointed out it had been on Radio 5 Live at some point. Tell me about the background to this. Where did you get the story from? How did you land on this?
Yeah, so my producer, the guy who I made this with, the guy called Kieran Tracy, was the producer of it, and he had just moved to Manchester, and he was on one of these guided tours of Manchester, and they went into the old coroner's court of the city. It's kind of deep underground. It was this very sort of old, very kind of, very, very strange building, very evocative, I suppose is the word I was looking for. And just as part of the tour, they said, oh, yeah, and this is where the inquest for the British people who died in Waco took place. And he was like, okay, I didn't know there were that many British people. And then he started looking into it and basically found that about 30 British people went out there and 24 of them died out there. So then we started basically trying to put the pieces together as to when that cult first started coming into the UK. And then we discovered that actually David Koresh himself had come over here in about 1988, 89 to a college in Berkshire, in Bracknell, which is such a, it's so far removed from where this all ended in the prairies of Texas. And that's the sort of bit that just thinks, how did all of this happen? But basically, he came over there, had a load of Bible sessions at this college off campus. And then a bunch of the people who had gone to experience that then went back to their communities, if you like, in London, in Nottingham, and in Manchester, and word kind of spread. And I suppose the podcast was about us trying to follow that path, really, and follow that web as it gradually went out across the UK, and then trying to understand what encouraged those people to give up, their pretty normal existence in the UK to decide to head out all the way to Texas.
Chris, I was really interested by the idea that he came to this college, and then you kind of explain in the podcast that it's a Seventh-day Adventist college. Is that right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, that's right.
So these are people, they were regular churchgoers, they were members of families that loved them, but they were members of this church. And I'm guessing the fact that they're kind of primed to await the second coming by the Seventh-day Adventist sort of branch of Protestantism was what led them, perhaps, to be ready for someone like Koresh to come along.
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on. You know, there's definitely an aspect to that because, you know, having made this, the thing that we get asked all the time is, why did these people suddenly think that this was the man? You know, this was the new Messiah. And I think you're right. I think there's something in that church, albeit, you know, there's 2 million members, something like that worldwide of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So, you know, it's quite a big denomination of Christianity. Yet, I think as part of that church, the kind of arrival of a new Messiah is quite a big part of it, you know, the imminent arrival of the second coming, if you like. And I think, you know, for a guy who's very charismatic like David Koresh, who knew the Bible inside out, who was able to turn around and go, hey, it's me. And they were all kind of, well, maybe, could be. You know, that sort of was quite a big part of it. And also, he was absolutely schooled in these very, very difficult kind of end of times parts of the Bible. So, you know, the book of Revelation, the book of Daniel, the stuff that a lot of theologians choose to go nowhere near because they just say, you know what, it's too difficult to decipher. But there he was saying, I've got it, guys. I totally understand this. And what's more, it's all going to be going down in Texas, so why don't you come over? And I think that kind of mixture of his personality, along with what he was saying, and along with a message that they wanted to hear, as you're quite rightly saying, Kath, was quite intoxicating for a lot of those people.
What was interesting, and by the way, dear listener, there will be spoilers, but we are only going to touch the tip of the iceberg because there are so many different stories and permutations in this podcast.
That's right.
What interests me is that these were just normal people. They're not weirdos. They're not whack jobs. They are normal people who are religious and are looking for some kind of answer.
Because the usual stereotype, you know, we grew up kids just post 70s and the Moonies and stuff, all that happened, and it seemed to be in popular culture, you know, there would always be, if you were watching a film, it would be someone who was lost and alone in a big city would get sucked into a cult. This wasn't the case at all, actually. These were members of families that really cared about them.
That's what I just learned more and more, and it was people doing quite ordinary professions. You know, you had teachers in there, you had nurses in there. Okay, these were people who led pretty Christian lives, as we just described there, but in a lot of cases, you know, it's the children of a builder who was in Manchester, who was just going about his business, who, you know, had an absolutely tragic story to tell. Yeah. But the more and more we kind of met a lot of these family members, the more we just thought, do you know what? You know, these are just people who are just amongst us all the time, who must look back 25 years ago and just think, what on earth happened in my life? Chris, you know, they've been living with that ever since.
Chris,
you know?
The story that really got me, and I've forgotten the gentleman's name, but it's the gentleman who's he's the handyman who lives up in Manchester.
Yeah, the builder.
The builder guy.
Sam Henry.
That's it. And his daughter is the first person. His daughter goes out and he's heartbroken, and he flies out to Waco and he tries to persuade her to come back.
Oh, yeah, you're punching the air, aren't you, at that point?
Oh,
you're thinking he's going to do it. It's going to be great.
And she refuses to come back, and so he goes home to his wife and his other kids. And a short time after that, they tell him, they call him upstairs and say, look, we've packed, we're off to Waco tomorrow, we're moving out there. That's incredible. And the dignity with which he speaks about just the biggest heartbreak a man could go through.
It is the most unbelievable story of the entire thing. And the fact that he did what I guess any parent would do when his daughter decided to head off to Texas, to this commune on the outskirts of this city of Waco, a place that she wouldn't have known, that he would have had no idea about at all. The fact that he got on a plane and then travelled for hundreds of miles in a Greyhound bus across America to suddenly get there, to get into the commune itself. And he describes in great detail, as you heard in the podcast, the confrontation he has with David Koresh.
Oh, it's so
who
tense.
is basically trying to get him to join in as well. Sorry, what were you going to say, Kath?
I was going to say, yeah, he's tried to assimilate him, and then when he realises he can't, this guy suddenly becomes a troublemaker. And it's kind of wonderful to hear, because he's in front of everybody, he's exposing this guy, and you think, yeah, he can see it, he can see what you can't. But he's on his own.
That's it. And there's that line when he said he first arrived, it really struck me, where he says, I saw this woman staring at me when I arrived at the commune, and I'm sure she saw a Christian when she looked at me, but I saw a witch. And you just think, oh, wow, God, it's so evocative. It really is. And then, like you say, he then leaves, can't believe he hasn't been able to persuade his daughter to come back to the UK. He comes home, he has to break the news to his family. And then literally within weeks, they turn around and say, we're heading off there too. And it's kind of like, well, when? And I think it was, well, tomorrow. And he has had to live with just the most extraordinary loss for all of those years. But he was so welcoming to us. He's moved, because he came over as part of the Windrush generation, and he's moved back to Jamaica now. And so we had a really long chat with him. I was in Manchester, he was in Jamaica, and we did one of the interviews that way. And then he was really, really gracious, because when it was the 25th anniversary, he was having a special memorial service in a cemetery in Stretford in Manchester. And he basically said, do you and Kieran want to come along? Which was so nice, because it was such a personal moment and of great emotion for him and his family, and he just basically said, you come in, it's really important for him and so many of the other people that we spoke to, that people hear this story, so that they're aware, I suppose, of not how easy, because it's not as if it's something that regularly happening in society, is it, but that if the circumstances are right, people can get attracted into that. And of course, go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, the couple, there are so many lovely, lovely people in it. The couple that went to like a sort of Bible studies, I don't know, week, or that marathon Bible studies session that was held by one of Koresh's partners. And people are sleeping on the floor with their kids, and they're all.
Wouldn't let them go to the loo or anything, would he?
And they're kind of this lovely couple, and they're sat there going, This isn't quite right. There's something about, and tell me about them.
Yeah, George and Dimplets Taylor.
Oh, I love Dimplets so much.
Dimplets was so nice, and she has no idea why she's got that name either. I said, I've never heard that name before. She said, I was given this name. I don't know why. There's no good reason for it. I've never heard of anybody else who's called it ever before. But yeah, they live in Oldham. They welcomed us in. They were just such lovely, nice, gentle people. And like you say, they basically described the fact that they were invited to, as they call it, a kind of Bible session. And it was with David Koresh, his right-hand man, and it was in a semi-detached house in Manchester, in a place called Cheetham Hill in the north of the city. And I'm giving it off like it was all just happening in Manchester, but it wasn't. Similar things were happening in Nottingham, similar things happening in London as well. But in this particular instance, like you say, it was standing room only in a living room. People, sat on the windowsill, seating around the place. They were living there for the best part of a week. Some of these people, they had their families there, they were sleeping there, they were eating there, as this guy Steve Schneider, David Koresh's second in command, basically just bombarded them with David Koresh's message. And there were just parts that Dimplets talked about where she said, I went up to him, I interrupted him at one point, and he was furious. He wasn't a man who was accustomed to being questioned or interrupted at all. And then at one point he said, I've got to go and make a phone call. I've got to go and speak to God. Wow. And she realised that he was referring to calling David Koresh, and he was essentially referring to him as God. And the thing is, there was a reasonable percentage of people who were in that room who then chose to head over to Waco. And she tells the story of her own sister-in-law, who was one of those. And then she tells us the dramatic story that you might remember as well of her sister-in-law choosing to escape from the commune in Waco with her children in tow. And it was like dead of night, all in dark clothes, because they were scared of some of the kind of heavier type of characters who are aligning themselves. with Koresh, you know?
There are so many of these stories. I want to get onto Livingstone in a minute because he is fascinating, and well done for getting him in, because that, I think, is what elevates this podcast into something very, very special. Is you've got someone who is a big supporter still of Koresh. But there are some incredibly upsetting bits, some horrendous, very honest accounts. Particular bits when the siege happened, and the siege went on for, I don't know, was it like 55 days or something? And it was a complete cock-up from the Americans, from the FBI and the American firearms. It was a cock-up, and they handled it abysmally. But you've got these sisters and these fathers and these brothers and these friends who are at home watching their family and their loved one, watching the building that they know their family is in, burn down. And again, dignity is the only one I can think of. The dignity with which these people tell, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, tell the horrific story of watching this happen on television. That's something really, really special that you got them to share it so honestly. It must have been tense in the room when you and Kieran are sat there with a microphone and someone is sharing that stuff with you.
Yeah, totally. And it's also one of those ones that when you're doing some of these interviews that we did for hours and hours and hours, because we didn't know how the whole thing would piece together a lot of the time, but you know that you're initially talking about the relationship with their sister or, their son or daughter or whatever it might be, the relationship. You're trying to get that human side in the interview, and then it kind of moves on to when the cult started coming into their life, and then when they made the decision to go over there, and you know that the interview is inevitably heading towards them describing probably the worst moment of their entire life, and you know it's going to be full of the most horrific memories for them. And for a lot of these people, they hadn't ever talked on the record before. A guy called Devon Elliott, who works in a school in a village outside Nottingham, such a nice guy, and he was one of the first people we interviewed in the whole thing, and he's never spoken on the record about what happened before. And I could just, you could see it in his eyes, and it was just, I didn't feel guilty because this is the job, right? And he knew we were going to be asking him the questions, but it did feel like we were intruding in such a horrendous memory for him. And as you say, because it was 1993, we're so used to the kind of 24-hour nature of the news and all the rest of it now, but I was 16 and I remember that being a story that I was watching on the sofa in my mum's house and thinking, yeah, this is okay. It was one of the very first stories that really sort of permeated in that kind of 24-hour CNN type of way, and obviously the final outcome of it was so horrific in nature, and the fact that these almost plywood buildings were just consumed by fire in the prairie winds, and the fact that they were able to watch the whole thing come to that conclusion. And some of the accounts that we had as well, Gail Mombelli was another one, her sister Bernadette, who she was so close to, the way that she describes hearing the news, turning on the television, collapsing. It's just horrendous. But I don't want people to think, oh, God, this sounds like way too tough a listen to get into, because, a lot of people have said it's not the easiest listen at times. But the fact is, before you get to that point, you've really got to know those characters, you've got to know them as people, and actually, you feel for them rather than find it really, really difficult, I think.
We mentioned this character Livingstone, as he calls himself now, who was within the compound, was, very, very high up with David Koresh. Koresh sent him out during the siege to go and negotiate with the FBI, and of course they just put him in the back of a truck and put him in prison.
That's it.
Tell us about Livingstone, because there's the whole thing about him defending Koresh having sex with wives and with children in there. He is unblinking and unwavering in his support of Koresh, which is even now, which is incredible.
Yeah, he still said David will return, he will return, and it will mark the end of the world. And we almost had to say, well, actually David Koresh, and he's like, yeah, it will be David Koresh will return. Incredible. He is absolutely convinced, and he now lives in a tower block in Nottingham, and we had to go through quite a long process to encourage him to actually speak to us. And part of the thing is he's been quite used over the years for media to sort of say, oh, well, what happened? You know, just on a very kind of basic level of what was it like living there? Then what happened on the day of the raid? What happened during the siege? Blah, blah, blah. But he was absolutely adamant that he wanted to get into all of the kind of, you know, philosophical, spiritual underpinning of the whole thing as far as he saw it, you know, the word according to David Koresh. And I've got to say, you know, Kieran, my producer, and I were kind of like, oh, well, that's just going to be so heavy and unpenetrable for the listeners. But then when we actually agreed to go and speak to him, and I interviewed him for about 3.5 hours, we actually realised that you kind of needed quite a lot of that to actually understand how far off in their kind of perception of what was happening they were compared to, say, for example, you know, the average punter or the FBI who are trying to negotiate with them. You know, you're trying to negotiate with people who are thinking in a completely different way about what's going on there. And so that was interesting. But I mean, you know, that was such a challenging interview because he was quite suspicious of us, I think, quite a lot as well, as to whether we were going to give him a fair crack at the whip. And I've never had so many questions that I've asked with the answer being, well, Chris, in order to answer that, we've got to go back 2,000 years. And I would just think, we don't.
Yeah. and you kind of said as much a couple of times. I thought the way you kind of steered him back onto the topic, there were a couple of little nudges, very subtle ones, and a couple less subtle. But it was necessary, wasn't it? Because, as you say, otherwise you could have been there for 6 hours. I get the feeling that he actually quite liked setting the record straight as he saw it. Yeah. And, I mean, he's had an absolutely extraordinary life because he was actually imprisoned in America for 14 years. He got a 30-year jail sentence for conspiracy to murder a federal agent because of his part in the initial raid at Waco. He did his time there and then can you imagine coming back to the UK and just sort of, okay, well, that was that part of my life. It would just be completely bizarre. And, you know, we went to see him in the Tower Block. There's not an awful lot in his flat. And you've heard that bit that we recorded right at the end. He knew we were recording, but he basically said to me, you know, well, I'm not sure you're necessarily going to get this podcast out because there's going to be some big things happening over the next couple of months. And I was saying, well, what you mean? You know, it could be the old end of the world. He was like, well, you know, there's a chance. And you're kind of like, okay. And that was his parting shot, and then we're off.
Maybe he was talking about Brexit. I think he meant Brexit. I think that's
could well have been. Chris, actually, that's a very good point.
It could be. Chris, listen, we're out of time. I'm so glad you sent me an email. Please send me an email with the next project that you do, because me and Kath absolutely love the stuff that you do. We think you're brilliant.
Good.
Kieran is incredible as well. Let's be honest, Catherine. We all know the producer is the real brains.
Yeah.
Damn straight.
In these organisations,
we all know that. We all know that.
It's if you want to find it, dear listener, it's End of Days. I've got the title right for the first time. You can get it on iTunes. You can get it on the BBC iPlayer, wherever you normally get your podcast. There are moments of lightness in there and humanity and all of this stuff. We've made it sound very heavy and very dark. There are some very heavy, very dark moments. But it is a beautiful story. Beautiful is possibly the wrong word. But there are some very human stories that are beautifully told. Well done, Chris. Thank you so much, mate.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks a lot for having me on. Appreciate it.
How's Nicky Campbell, by the way? Has he improved?
Yeah, I think he's doing all right now. He's back on 5 Live after the kidney stones. Excellent. Yes, that was an interesting interview. But he's all right.
Hey, nice one, Chris. Thank you very much. Dear listener, this is the Late Night Alternative. Coming up next, we've got Stephen Tobolowsky from LA. I think he's in LA, somewhere like that. This is the Late Night Alternative on Talk Radio.
The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio.
We have ways of making you talk.
What it says.
mamacita.
That is this is the movie version of the song Radiohead from the movie True Stories, okay, which is one of my favourite films. I saw it about 20 years ago and was like, wow, this is like Head for the 80s. And hallelujah, it's finally been released on a Criterion Collection DVD. It came out earlier this year, like last month, and I got it, and it's packed full of extras. The original movie soundtrack is released for the first time. Talking Heads released a True Stories album where it's them doing the songs from the movie, and it's great. But this is This is John Goodman and the whole cast doing the songs.
And what I liked about that film was I had never seen it
No.
before, but you used it as a test of our friendship.
Yes.
Now, is she going to like this? Because if
Yeah.
she doesn't, 5 years out the window.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah.
What a film.
And I know a few of you have seen it as a direct result. Anyway, the DVD is packed full of extras, as it should be. No director's commentary, disappointing, but the rest of it's packed full of extras. And I fell down a couple of rabbit holes in the extras. The first one was a gentleman called Spalding Gray, who plays the mayor in the movie. And I remember seeing it years ago and thinking, this guy is an incredible performer. He's doing these weird things with his hands. And I've kind of fallen down a Spalding Gray rabbit hole. Amazing performance artist and actor. Did a series of one-man shows. Did a movie with Nick Brumfield, who we love. Really tragic life. Committed suicide. I think it's about 10, 15 years ago. So I've kind of been stocking up on books on DVDs. And then I saw this Tobolowsky character kind of popped up as one of the people involved who supposedly you see the movie, and it's Stephen Tobolowsky written by, and he's on there as part of the extras going, yeah, didn't write the movie. and I kind of was Googling him, and he's been in over 200 movies, and I recognised him, of course, from Groundhog Day. And the weekend I discovered his wonderful podcast, and I was listening to 4 of those. You listened to about 3 or 4 of them as well.
I did. I was tidying my wardrobe. I folded everything. It's a good job my kids didn't come in. They would have been folded up and put away too.
It's such a good podcast. It's so good. And I just, on an off chance, sent Stephen an email. And Stephen foolishly replied and agreed to come on the show this evening. And we have Stephen on the line now. Good evening, Stephen.
Good evening, Ian.
It's so nice to talk to you, man, honestly. And your voice is so familiar because I've seen you in... I've not seen all 200 movies, let's be honest, but I've seen you in so many movies. I've seen you in the Goldbergs, the series that's kind of just showing over here. And I've got to say, man, your podcast, the Tobolowsky Files, I keep calling it letters, Files, what a joy, man. How was that fun to do?
Well, it's still being fun. It was kind of an accident the way the whole thing happened. This is another story, I guess. In 2008, yeah. I was riding a horse on the side of an active volcano in Iceland.
And we're off!
And we're off. And this is absolutely true. This is no exaggeration, is that I got hit by a gigantic wind off the Atlantic Ocean that lifted me and my horse off the ground, carried us several feet, dropped me on the other side of the road, and my horse kind of thought it was like God saying, "Giddy up." And that horse took off, and I got thrown onto a hardened lava flow somewhere on the other side of the mountain.
Ouch.
And I was going in and out of consciousness, and I ended up breaking my neck in 5 places, and the middle vertebra was C4, what the pros call it.
Yes.
C4 got crushed. So when I got back to the United States, my doctor told me I had a fatal injury, which was pretty shocking. It was at first I thought it was kind of a terrible misuse of the word fatal, because obviously it wasn't, and I was scared. And then I thought, wait a minute, this is kind of inspirational.
Oh, come on.
What if what the doctor said was true and I really died on the mountain in Iceland? What are some of the stories I have never told my boys about their dad? And so I started writing these stories about First Love and First Adversaries and Radiohead, et cetera, like stories which became the Tobolowsky Files as kind of a way so my kids would know who their dad was. And coincidentally, it'll come as no surprise to any parent listening to this, my children have not listened to any of it. None of it. But it became a podcast that I guess has gone all over the world now, and of these nutty, crazy but true stories. And that's the Tobolowsky Files.
They are beautifully told. They're beautifully written. I do want to talk about true stories because I've devoured all of the extras on there, and I found episode 44 of your podcast, which is the one where you talk about working with David Byrne, and you and your wife wrote the movie, gave him the movie, and then didn't hear anything for a year. Is that right?
Well, Beth wasn't my wife. She was my girlfriend of 16 years.
Okay.
And she had just won the Pulitzer Prize for dramatic literature.
Wow.
In America for her play Crimes of the Heart. And so Jonathan Demme, who did Stop Making Sense with David, really wanted to get Beth to write David's movie, True Stories. So Beth met with David, and she called me up and said, I have no idea what David is talking about. Maybe you should come over and you talk to David. So I went over and talked to David, and I didn't understand quite what David was talking about. But on the wall of his home, which had no furniture in it, on the wall of his home, there were about 200 pencil drawings. And he said, could you turn these drawings into a movie? And I looked at them for about 2 hours, and I said, David, I'll tell you what, I'll go home, I'll write something, an outline or some sort of, and if you like it, you can hire me to do the movie. If you don't like it, you could keep whatever I write and use it anyway, whatever. So anyway, that night I wrote 35 pages of outline and scenes and character descriptions from true stories that became True Stories. David hired me. And then he called up Beth and said, well, if I have Stephen working on the structure and the characters, Beth, can you be working on the movie too? So Beth and I wrote the first draft of True Stories in 19 days, which is not a lot of time.
No, that sounds quite speedy for a movie treatment or script, yeah.
Right, and we gave it to David, and then, as you have mentioned, we did not hear from David for a year. And then I'm driving through the Hollywood Hills, and I hear a knock, knock, knock on my car window, and it's David Byrne on a bicycle beside my car. And he's gesturing for me to roll down the window. So I roll down the window. He goes, Stephen, sorry, haven't been back in touch with you. You know, we've been on the road with the Talking Heads, and I got your script, and I changed a lot of it. I changed most everything. But are you going to be home this afternoon? Because there's something I really want you to hear. And I said, sure. So I went home, and David went and got his guitar and came over. And he said, I really liked the story you told me about how when you were young, you had this experience where you heard tones in your head. So I wanted one of the characters in the movie to have that. And he sat there and said, and I wrote this song for them. So he played me in my living room the song Radiohead. And I went, damn. Not only was it a fantastic song, but this event, this kind of psychic event, happened to me when I was 19 years old.
And this really happened, didn't it, Stephen? You recount this in the podcast. You just found yourself saying stuff and answering questions that were absolutely spot on, and with stuff that you couldn't have known.
It was horrible. It was one of the worst periods of my. It began. We were on a movement retreat, so I'm 19 years old, and my movement teacher takes us out on a retreat, which sounded really stupid. It sounded like we were going to be doing the same thing we did in class, but closer to bugs and farther away from good toilets.
Sounds awful.
And so at the end, we're sitting around the fire, and he says, I want everyone to say the first thing that comes into your mind. And my teacher is at 12 o'clock, if you imagine that clock, and I'm at 6 o'clock. And people around the circle, the book Lord of the Rings was out at the time, so they were going like, Frodo, and then the next person said like Gandalf, and the next person said Frodo, and then the next person said, well, he just took my word. And my teacher said, don't filter, just say what you want to say. Okay, Frodo. And so it's coming around to me, and I'm hating this exercise. I have no idea what I'm going to say, and then I hear this sound in my head, like this tone in my head, and the teacher said, Stephen, what would you like to say? And I looked at my teacher and I said, I think your name is not your name. I think you're operating under an assumed identity, and your real initials are either JK or JL. Pause. Then the teacher goes to the next one. All right, you're up next, Don. He goes, Gandalf, and it goes back around the circle. So we're all breaking, and I'm going to my car, and out of the shadows, my teacher comes and says, Stephen, why did you say what you said about me? And I said, I'm sorry. You just said don't filter, say what you want. He said, because it's true.
Oh, my God.
I have an assumed name. I came here, I changed my name, and my initials are JK, like you said. So I ask you, how did you know that? And I said, I have no idea. He said, has anyone ever done psychic experiments with you? And I go, no. I mean, this is Texas in I'm 19, so it's like the 70s. There's no psychic experiments. So I go over to his house one day, and it was he asked me to come over to do these psychic experiments. I asked if I could bring Beth, who was a freshman at the time, and I was dead in love with her.
Yeah.
And this was kind of our first date. I took her over to our teacher's house. We're holding hands over this Japanese prayer stool. And he says, okay, Stephen, now just tell me what you see. Well, I didn't see anything. I heard things.
Yeah.
So I hear this sound, and I say, I think there's a 5-year-old over by your fireplace, and there's a 40-year-old woman on the telephone. And my teacher lets go of my hands, starts walking around the room in a panic. And I said, what's wrong? And he says, I was babysitting my 5-year-old nephew. He was over by the fireplace. I told him it wasn't safe. He ran out the front door and was hit by a car.
Oh, no.
My sister, on her 40th birthday, called on the telephone you pointed to and committed suicide. Oh, God. At this point, I'm starting to cry. And Beth and I drive her back to the dorm, and she says, what do you know about me? And I said, nothing. And she says, well, maybe we should hold hands and you should concentrate.
Fantastic.
And I'm thinking like, hey, there could be something.
This is working.
Stuff. Now it's going. So I hold Beth's hands, and I said, Beth, I don't see anything. And she looked at me and says, no. You don't see things, you hear things. Do I make a sound? And I said, yes, Beth, you do. And I said, and she said, what do I make? And for some reason, this came out of my mouth. This was pretty much word for word. I said, you have 3 tones in the male range. Male tones are higher than female tones. Your 3 tones are in harmony. Wow. She said, what does that mean? I said, well, it either means you are sufficient unto yourself or you always get your way. And Beth looked at me and said, we're going to make a fortune. Let's be partners. Look, I'll go gather people from the theater department together. I'll bring them to you. You hold their hands. You listen to you. Whatever you want to say. We'll charge $0.25 each, maybe even $1. And then you say this, whatever. This is great. And we'll put the money in a jar and we'll save it. And I'm thinking like, man, this sounds like a relationship to me. And so Beth started bringing people from the theater department over, but it was grim. I would hold people's hands, and I would say things that were awful that there was no way I could know. I would say to someone, you've just had a very close death in your family. You're going to get an inheritance right now. There are discussions as to how you're going to invest the money. He was absolutely freaked out.
Wow.
I'm holding one girl in my theater department's hand. I go, you're trying to get over the fact that you were sexually abused by your father. it haunts you. You know, and she breaks down into tears. It was not fun. It was, and the more I listened and the more I heard these tones, the more tones came into my head. And this, when David Byrne first came over to our house, he wanted to know if we had a swimming pool. And because Beth had just won the Pulitzer Prize, oh, yeah.
You had a few quid going. You were living the fancy life.
The fancy life. We had a swimming pool, and if you go onto YouTube and see his video of Road to Nowhere, all the swimming pool, underwater scenes were shot at our home.
Well played.
So while David is shooting Road to Nowhere, we're talking about what he's working on next, and he mentions he wants to do this true stories thing about people that have these incredible events that have happened in their life that are impossible to be true, but are true. And that's when Beth said, well, you should talk to my sweetie because he hears tones. And David looked at me and kind of laughed. He goes, you hear tones? And I go, well, you know, so it was a long time ago. And that was the genesis of the story that David ended up putting in the movie and wrote the song about. So in a way, David Byrne, bless his heart, chronicled the beginning of my relationship with Beth.
Isn't that beautiful?
And it's wonderful. That part of the story is wonderful. And of course, David's a genius, so I'm very happy he wrote the song.
Well, of course, for those who don't know, the band Radiohead got their name from that. So your early romance with Beth continues on throughout their work. When was I've got so many questions. When did the tones stop? Have they stopped?
No. But I quit actively seeking to hear tones, but I still hear them. I could still hear them. Now, I have no idea how I translate the tones into saying something meaningful.
Right, yeah.
But like, here is a horrible, horrible story. It was... You know, it seems like, Ian, you just bring the terrible stories out.
I'm so sorry. We're going to go to the light in a minute. I promise, Stephen. We will go to the light.
It was, my birthday was coming up, and my wife, Ann, said, I'm going to, now Annie and I, we've been married 30 years. She says, I have a little birthday thing planned for you. And I said, okay. And I hear this thing in my head. I said, I tell you, you're always joking about my the ESP and all this stuff. I said, I'll tell you what, it's all just foolishness. I'm going to write on a piece of paper what the birthday is, and then we'll go and have our birthday party, and you'll come back and see what I heard in my head, and you'll know that it's all just a crock. So I got a piece of paper, and I wrote, we're going to drive down to downtown Los Angeles to the concert hall, and Ann got me permission to play on the grand piano of the stage of Disney Hall. And so anyway, I write that and seal it in an envelope, and Ann says, well, we're going to lunch at a really nice place, so maybe you should dress up in a suit or something like that.
God.
I'm saying, oh, okay. And she says, the restaurant is kind of downtown, so why don't we just kind of head toward where we go to concerts, Disney Hall? If you park in the basement of the concert, the restaurant's right across the street. And I am about to puke. Do you have that word in England?
Yeah, we have the word puke, yes.
I'm just like going absolutely pale. We go up the elevator, and there's the custodian of the concert hall, and he goes, right this way, sir. And they open the doors. There's the grand piano on the center of the stage at Disney Hall. A friend of mine has come from home with all of my music, comes up on stage, and I get to play on the stage of Disney Hall for about an hour and a half. And
incredible.
I'm thinking the whole time, I'm going to get murdered when we get home. It's going to be so bad. Ann came home, and she was laughing, and then she opened up the envelope and went absolutely pale. And she was certain that either I had overheard her phone conversations or had been spying on her computer or something. And I said, no, baby, no. It just for some reason, that's what I heard, and that's what we had. But those kind of things happen a lot.
It's incredible. And here's the thing, me and Kath, we don't normally tend to believe this stuff. But when we heard it in your podcast and telling it now, how can you doubt this? How can you doubt this experience? Let's move away from the dark a little bit. When was the last time you saw David Byrne? Have you seen him at all recently? Did you see him when the Criterion were putting the DVD together?
No, I didn't. I saw David about 3 years ago. I want to say maybe 2-3 years ago with Jeff Bezos. We were at a kind of conclave in Santa Fe, out kind of around Santa Fe, New Mexico, and everybody was. Jeff Bezos brought together about 50 different people to present different entertainments for one another. That were kind of mind-blowing, and David was one of the presenters, and I was doing one of my stories for everybody. So I saw David again after that time, and it was odd. It was odd seeing David after so many years, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun seeing him, and we ended up having a wonderful talk.
This actually may be the last dark question. Then we're going to take a break, if you don't mind, and then we will come back to the light. But you, again, in the True Stories episode of your podcast, you talk. Listen, I'm a former cocaine addict, right? I'm a junkie. I'm in recovery and all of this, and I've never heard anyone describe the what cocaine does in such a beautiful and devastating description. You describe it something like it's energy that you've borrowed from your future that you have to pay back with interest, and it's a very selfish act. And I just wondered what your relationship with cocaine was. Was it an irregular thing? What did you ever get a problem with cocaine, or was it just like every now and then? If you don't mind me asking.
No, I don't mind you asking, but Ian, it just bit me on the ass. It was. And it wasn't as bad as some of our friends. You have to remember, this was kind of the 1980s, and back then it wasn't that cocaine was addictive. It was that it was expensive. Right. That was the rap on cocaine. Nobody ever thought, oh, you're going to get addicted to this stuff. It was like something that made you, flirt with other men's wives. Yeah. That's all it was. And so I would use it for a party. I was in a rock band at the time, and we would do it afterwards to party. And it got to be where I felt I really needed it more than I wanted to need it. Right. And like I said, other friends of mine went, like you were talking before, down the rabbit hole. Other friends of mine, it really destroyed their lives. And I came up with a method of getting myself off of cocaine, in which I had someone actually from London read my method, and they used it, and it helped them undo it. And if briefly, what my method was, I said I wasn't addicted to cocaine. I was addicted to the cash machine that I needed to get the cash to buy the cocaine. Right. So maybe if what I did is I spent the exact same amount of money I was spending on cocaine every week, but I had to spend it on me. I couldn't save the world. I couldn't do anything. I had to spend it on me. And the first week it was easy. Yeah. The first week I bought a set of encyclopedias. I bought some Cuban cigars. I bought Paradis brandy. Second week, it was not so easy. So I'm buying some Italian suits. It was, and I have to keep spending this money every week on me of new stuff. And it became exhausting spending money on myself. Yeah. And after 8 weeks, I said, I can't do it anymore. I'm stopping this. And I realized that for the last 8 weeks, I had not done any cocaine, and I had lost the physical need for cocaine. Brilliant. And I had transformed myself into a narcissistic actor with a closet full of Italian suits, the richest brandies in the world, Waterford Crystal. It didn't improve my personality, but I wasn't addicted to cocaine anymore.
Stephen, can we go to a quick break and then come back? Are you okay to hold on for a minute?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you so much indeed. Stephen Tobolowsky we're talking to. Go and download his podcast, the Tobolowsky Files. And I've got so many questions. I want you to join in as well, Kath.
Yeah.
So I know you've got a lot of questions as well. We're going to get the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is all we're going to get. But what a thrill. Thank you, Stephen. This is the Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee and Catherine Boyle on Talk Radio.
Uncut after-hours conversation for the up-all-night generation. The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Well, this is a thrill. There are podcasts, there are books that have been written. Stephen's written books as well, and of course there is a movie. Stephen, before we go on to the next proper question, I need to ask: Tobolowsky, which is the correct one? Because I've said both, and I was going to stick with one, and I didn't, and I'm sorry.
I think they're both good. I went and asked my Uncle Nathan, who was the historian of our family, the same question. I said, because they all pronounce it differently. I said, is it Tobolowsky, Tobolowsky, Tobolowsky? And he said, you can pronounce it any way you not want because it's not really your name.
Oh, blimey.
And I went, what? He says, yeah, when grandfather came to America, he came through Galveston, Texas, not Ellis Island, and he didn't speak the English very well, and the guard who was bringing him into the country didn't speak the Yiddishkeit or whatever grandfather was speaking. And so he asked, who are you? And grandfather only know the who, wo, from German, meaning where. Not who, but where are you? Thinking he was saying, where are you from? And so in his grandfather's way, he said, I'm Abraham from Tobolowsk. And so the guy didn't understand him, and so he said, okay, from now on, you're Abraham Tobolowsky. So according to that legend, I got my name the same way Don Corleone got his name in The Godfather.
Incredible. Catherine, you wanted to ask Stephen something. There's so much we want to ask, but go on,
Well, first of all, I wanted to say thank you for telling us about your mother. No, the podcast, the bits about your mum were great. The David Byrne going to your family home and being offered an array of drinks several times had me in tux. It was so funny.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, my mother is magnificent. If you're listening to the podcast, one of the first podcasts I wanted to do about my mother was, I think, the fourth one, number 4, called The Alchemist. And here in America, National Public Radio named that podcast as one of the top recorded podcasts done. So that's a good one to introduce you to my mother.
Brilliant.
Because it's pretty hilarious and pretty heartbreaking. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. Thank you. You paint such beautiful pictures. I also wanted to ask you, I know you've worked with many greats, and I know Iain wants to ask you about Steven Seagal at some point.
Yes, I do. But
I wanted to ask you about Gérard Depardieu, because I was a languages student in the mid-90s, and Gérard Depardieu seemed to do the impossible, which was kind of cross over. As a man who wasn't a matinee idol and didn't have great English, he crossed over and he became quite famous in America. And I know you worked on a film with him.
Yes, My Father the Hero. We did that in the Bahamas, and I did that with my wife, Anne. She played my wife in the movie. And I think it was one of Katherine Heigl's first roles. I think Kathy Heigl was maybe early teens, 11, 12, 13, around in there. She plays the female lead in that. And Gerard, I was a huge fan of his, and we were shooting at the Ocean Club, I know, in the Bahamas, and I had specifically learned this piece of Mozart that was used as the soundtrack of one of his films. And so in between takes, I went over to the grand piano that was there at the party, and I started playing this Mozart piece. And Gerard came over and said, that sounds so familiar. And I said, Gerard, it's a song from your last movie that came out. He goes, oh, that's wonderful. We got to be about 3 a.m, and I started playing the Moonlight Sonata. whenever you see anything in a movie that takes place at night, you got to figure the actors were up all night.
Yeah.
So it's about 3 a.m. We're on the beach in the Bahamas, moon and stars, and I start playing the Moonlight Sonata just in the background in between shots. And one of the Bahamian men who was an extra in the movie, working as a waiter, came up to me and said, "That is the most beautiful song I've ever heard. Is there a recording of it?"
Well.
And I said, "Oh, yeah, there are lots of recordings of it." He says, "Well, I'm getting married next month, and I would like this song to be played at my wedding because it's the only song I've ever heard that's as beautiful as my wife."
Oh, well played.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner.
There we go.
Help me, please. Gerard on this movie, Gerard Depardieu, I always thought he was the greatest actor in the world. We had so much fun shooting the movie, and it was such a treat for me to be so close to. Really, at that time in my life, I thought he was the greatest actor in film. So to work with him was such a treasure, and it was one of the great moments for me.
Stephen, why acting? How did you get into acting? Because you say you grew up in Texas. I kind of imagine that, we think of Texas, we think of, big men with big hats and oil and, kind of manly pursuits. Not saying acting isn't manly, but the arts and creativity and performing doesn't kind of strike me as a normal Texan endeavour. So how did you get into acting?
Oh, Ian, this is really a stupid answer. This is going to challenge everyone. I got into acting because when I was 5 years old, I thought monsters were real. And I loved monsters. I loved Godzilla, and I loved Dracula and the Wolfman. And I thought if I became an actor, I could hang out with these monsters.
Oh, fantastic.
And that propelled me through my early years doing plays around, I'm getting ready to work with Godzilla, hopefully someday. And then I got to college. And, well, in I don't want to jump anything because it's all pretty grim. I got sick when I was 13 years old, and I couldn't play anymore. I couldn't do sports. I couldn't go outside. So I spent a lot of time indoors and for about 2 years, and I began reading plays.
Yeah.
And I began thinking, well, I could act. That's indoors. And I became one of the big actors at our high school. And then I went to college, and I thought acting was noble. It was the first time that I encountered Shakespeare and Chekhov and Shaw and all those great, great writers. And then I came out to Los Angeles, and I'm auditioning for Butt Crack Plumber. I'm auditioning for, Homeless Man number 2. And I realized it has nothing to do with nobility.
No.
But at that point, it was the only thing I knew how to do.
Yeah. And, I mean, can you believe it? We were looking at your IMDb, and, there are some years when you've got like 10 movies coming out. You've been constantly working. You've been in over 200 movies, some small movies, some huge movies. The Philadelphia Experiment, by the way, one of my favourite films. You're still working with things like the Goldbergs and stuff like that. Can you believe it? Can you believe that this incredible career and life that you've had, and you are still having, and you are still successful in?
Yeah, it's shocking. Right now, we just finished the third year of One Day at a Time on Netflix, and I don't know if it plays in England. If it does, you got to watch it. It's the most spectacular show. But it's like, here it is. I'm almost 68, I think.
Wow.
And I have been working on the best projects all together in one chunk I've ever worked on in my life. One Day at a Time is absolutely brilliant show.
It is. I've just checked it. It's on the UK Netflix, One Day at a Time. So I'm having some of that this weekend.
Well, you got to watch it. You got to watch it. It's absolutely hilarious and heartbreaking, if you could believe both of those things in the same sentence. And it's like an old traditional sitcom. Our executive producer, Norman Lear, like the original One Day at a Time. But this really pushes it to the limit. What I tell everybody, we just premiered the 3rd season. What I tell everybody, watch the first show of the first season, and if you don't flip, if you don't go like, wow, I love these people and I love these stories, I mean, maybe it's not for you, but I got to tell you, it is. We just got the rare 100% Rotten Tomato rating.
No.
Like saying like,
That's
yeah,
incredible.
100%.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. TV Guide has come out over here and said it's one of the best shows ever produced, and it is. I mean, it's got it, and this is happening now in my life.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Goldbergs. Goldbergs is an institution here in America. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's a great show. I just finished doing 2 years on Silicon Valley, which I think they're showing in the UK.
It's a
now.
great series, Silicon Valley. Yeah, I love it.
Hilarious. All these things are happening to me now later in life, and I so appreciate it that I was able to do kind of iconic things in the past, like Groundhog Day and other things, and now I'm able to work with such great people, like on One Day at a Time, and great scripts. I mean, really, it's amazing. I pinch myself all the time.
You know that there's a TV channel over here that every Groundhog Day, they show the movie Groundhog Day all day. All day. It's one of the Sky channels. You know that, Cal?
Yes, I do.
It's one of the Sky channels. They show it all 24 hours. Groundhog Day on a loop.
Yes.
Imagine.
And I have to remind the listeners here, when Groundhog Day came out, it was not that well reviewed. It got like 3 out of 4 stars.
Oh, did it?
Or 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was like considered very good for a kind of for a typical Bill Murray movie.
Yeah.
And after the film had been out for like a month at the theaters, I get a call from our producer, Trevor Albert, and he said, Stephen, we may have a hit. And I go, really? He says, well, every week the box office keeps going up.
Wow.
And it can't be the reviews, so it has to be word of mouth. And Ian, you want to talk about serendipity.
Yeah.
I think one of the miracles that's made Groundhog Day a classic and an evergreen is that we shot it in Woodstock, Illinois, and it was bitter cold when we shot it. And so everyone in the movie is wearing winter scarves and coats and hats. And so there is no fashion to go out of.
There you go.
Winter clothing stays kind of the same.
Yeah.
But you don't have the shoulder pads.
Isn't
You
that
don't have
funny?
the weird hairdos. Everybody's all bundled up. And it looks universal.
I feel like I'm treating you like I've got a rock singer on, and I'm just putting a quarter in and just getting you to do your greatest hits every time. But the story that I heard, and I phoned Kath up and said, Kath, you've got to listen to this episode. It's nuts. And then she phoned me back when she heard it, was when I think you were doing like what we call rep over here, like summer stock theatre. And is the guy called Vince, the ex-Marine cook that you have?
Vinny, the cook.
Vinny.
Yeah.
Can we hear that? I mean, that is an incredible story.
Oh, well, we had, no one could be a cook at this. You have to understand this this theater. It wasn't a dinner theater. It was like, we did the classics. We did Oscar Wilde, but we had like no real audiences. So the manager of the theater managed to hook up our plays with the local prison and also the local insane asylum. So we would do Importance of Being Earnest for prisoners, and they come in rattling their chains. Is swearing legal on your station?
What does it begin with?
GDBS?
I think we can say that once. Yeah, go on.
Okay. So anyway, I'm playing Algernon in The Importance of Being Earnest, and not a laugh. Not a single laugh, not a sound from the prisoners. You have to understand, this is one of the greatest plays ever crafted. It is one of the funniest plays. Not a laugh. The curtain is coming down at the end of Act 1, and all I hear is a lone voice coming from the audience. How much longer we have to listen to all this goddamn bullshit? goes down.
And you have to go back out
We
again.
have 2 more acts to do. We have 2 more acts to do. It was amazing. We did Midsummer Night's Dream for the insane asylum, and one of the young men in the front row, like when the fairies came out of the forest, I'm playing bottom, pulled his pants down and horrified all of us actors on the stage. As he did what he was going to do on the front row. And we're freaking out backstage, and the head of this theater said, "Gang, just imagine you're performing for Shakespeare's audience." Shakespeare's audience? This is so anyway, you couldn't keep a cook at this place.
No.
We ended up getting this ex-Marine named Vinny.
Yes.
Vinny as the cook. And during Midsummer Night's Dream, we're all. Vinny was crazy. We're all in there. We all have different jobs to do at the end of cooking, and I see people kind of vanishing during dinner. And the head of the theater comes in to yell at us again. This is the guy who talked about Shakespeare's audience. He goes, "Vinny did not poison the onions. If anyone says Vinny has poisoned the onions, you could get your hat and coat and get the hell off the plate." And I'm thinking, like, what do you mean poison the onions? What are we talking about? Now, I'm looking at my plate. I just had, like, a whole beef stroganoff with a bunch of creamed onions. And I'm thinking, like, So it was my job to help wash the dishes.
Yeah.
So I go back into the kitchen, and there's the big pot of onions, and there's a box of rat poison on the shelf, open by the onions. I'm thinking, like, so I go talk to our technical director. I said, Tony, I think maybe Vinny did poison the onion. And so we're all getting ready. The audience, if you call it that, starts showing up at the theater, and people start vanishing, and I start hearing people throw up all over the place. All the actors, this you have to imagine this sylvan scene, this theater existing in the beautiful mountains of upstate New York, now filled with actors running out into the bushes vomiting. So Al Maysel comes back saying, "Well, in the old tradition of the theater, the show must go on." He put vomit buckets on each side of the stage, and so he says, "Just keep doing the play, and if you have to throw up, just work your way over to the vomit bucket, throw up, and keep going with the play." So I start getting terrible stomach cramps as bottom, which is a fairly sizable role, right before the play starts, and I begin puking. I'm sure your audience is at this point. So I am doing Bottom's Dream, and I'm looking out at the audience. They're still there. They're watching us like nothing, like this is no strange thing. Like we have this actor on stage who's wandering over to one side of the stage, vomiting, continues with his speech, wanders over to the other side of the stage, vomits, this bucket keeps going, and they're still sitting there like it's normal. Now, some of the actors did not make it to the buckets. They just vomited on the back curtain. And the audience stays. They stay for the entire show. They applaud at the end. It was amazing.
They applaud. I would hope so.
Wow.
Oh, my
God. Vinny vanished in the night.
Yeah.
And we have no idea what happened to Vinny as he tried to murder all of us.
Now that brings us actually very smoothly to the man who refused to murder you.
Oh no! Listen, yeah, okay. Listen, we'll have, if you don't mind, giving us one more story, Stephen. Because I could listen to you all night, but let's have one more. Because I read this and then I saw a video of you talking about this. This is incredible. Steven Seagal, who, let's be honest, now in 2019. Very thick, dark, lustrous hair.
It's amazing.
I don't know what he's doing, but he's really looked after his hair. You very good genes. You were in a movie with him. He was quite. You had to kind of wait for him to wake up before you could audition or something, didn't you?
Right. I had to audition for him at his house at 10 a.m. And his house like I live, if you know Los Angeles, I live in the San Fernando Valley. He lived over in Beverly Hills, so it was quite a drive for me. But I got over there in the morning, 10 a.m., knocked on his door. His housekeeper let me in. No Stephen to audition for.
No.
And I was told that he is still asleep. He slept till 12:30.
Oh,
so
no.
I waited in his living room. I waited in his living room for 2.5 hours before he comes down in his pajamas and said, so, in this movie, you are a serial killer, but I really want to feel the emotion from you. I really want you to cry. Are you able to cry? I said, well, I feel like crying right now. I could cry for you right. So anyway, I have to shoot my scene with Steven Seagal the first day of shooting.
Yeah.
And the number of times, now this is weird, Ian, the number of times in my career I have shot the first scene of a movie. Groundhog Day, Bill Murray and I began shooting that street scene the first crack of dawn of the first day. Same thing with Glimmer Man. So John Gray, our director, came up to me in a hurry before we start shooting, and he said, got problems, Stephen. Steven Seagal says he doesn't want to kill you in the scene anymore. He doesn't want to be violent. I go, he doesn't want to be violent. He goes, yeah, the people at Warner Brothers were telling him, Stephen, baby, boobala, you dance with who brung you. I mean, that's all you do.
You dance with who brung you.
Movies. That's, they don't hire you because you're a great actor. You kill people. That's what you do. It's like hiring Bruce Lee and telling him, don't do any kung fu. That's what you do. So I have Steven Seagal, and he comes in and he says, I've been thinking. I think it's bad karma to be killing people in this movie. And John Gray is standing behind Stephen, gesturing to me like, shut up, Stephen, to me. Don't talk, don't say anything. And I said, well, Stephen, this is the way I see it. I see that actually you are helping my reincarnational development as a human being. I'm a serial killer in this movie. I'm in agony. My soul is in agony. But if you kill me like you're supposed to, you're actually benefiting me and mankind. And he goes, I like that. So we do the scene. I capture a priest. Steven Seagal kills me. He kills me real good. In fact, in the movie, they had set up this contraption to where he shoots me several times and my chest explodes.
Yeah.
And I fall out of frame, and Steven comes up with a smoking gun and looks down at me, and we cut out of that scene. So I think we're done. And then about 2.5 months later, I get a panic phone call from John Gray, the director, and he said, Stephen, we have a problem. Steven Seagal has been ad-libbing in the rest of the movie saying, thank God I didn't kill that guy in the church. Is there any way you could come in and add some lines to the scene to indicate that you're not dead? I go, well, sure. So I go over to see ADR, which is film talk, but that's when you add voice to a film that's already been shot. You take out swear words if you're doing Deadwood or what, you do all sorts of things. So I'm looking at this shot. I'm there with Keenan Ivory Wayans. He's watching too. And Steven shoots me. My chest explodes. I fall out of frame, blood flying everywhere. And John Gray says, now is when we want you to say something. And I go, now? And Keenan Ivory Wayans just kind of looks at me, shakes his head. He goes, man, now we are in the area of high comedy. And he walks out. And I'm thinking I go, well, John, there's not much I could say. I mean, my chest is exploded. There's blood everywhere. So he says, well, just try some things. So I fall out of frame after this brutal shooting. I go like, oh, you just nicked me. Or,
it's just a flesh wound.
I think I ended up saying, finish me, you bastard. Like that. What they ended up cutting out the shot of my chest exploding, and then they had some shot of some guy wearing my costume just being shot very neatly, falling out of frame. They just kind of re-edited it, and so that was my experience with Steven Seagal. He was. He's the man that only Putin loves. He's
Stephen, listen, brother, thank you so much. You have an open invitation. You come on whenever you want. You have to come over here and do like a one-man show as well. Come to the UK. We'll sort it out. We'll get a theatre. We'll get you an audience. Come and do a one-man show here, Stephen.
Hey, it's a deal. It's a deal. I got friends over there, too. I'd love to come over and see them and say hello. That's a deal.
Let's make it happen.
I'll give you guys a call from time to time.
Oh, listen, you've got my email. You are welcome whenever you want. Listen, One Day at a Time is the show. The season 3 is. I've checked. It's all on Netflix in the UK. The Tobolowsky Files is the podcast. Very quickly, are you doing any more of those, or is that finished now, Stephen?
No. I was just telling David Ferrier from New Zealand, I've just finished 7 more.
Oh, great.
David Chin, who's my producer, he's working for Jeff Bezos now. He's really busy. So what I do is I write and record the podcast, and then I give it to David, and then we finish them up together. So I'm going to try to get 10 together and release those 10.
Stephen, it's such a thrill. We've been so excited you coming on, and you did not disappoint, sir. You are such a great storyteller.
Oh, you made me laugh so much.
You really made us laugh. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Well, thank you, guys, and much love to all you folks on that side of the pond.
Lovely. Stephen Tobolowsky. Do you want to go and say goodbye to him properly? I mean, fantastic. I cannot recommend, excuse me, the Tobolowsky Files enough. Such a great podcast. My voice is going. I've been laughing too much and it's done my throat, and we're late for the news. Who cares? This is the Late Night Alternative with Iain and Kath on Talk Radio.
The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio.
We have ways of making you talk.
Always smoking the herb. They moved from the big city to the big fat burb. They had 5 kids and could spare a dime. Our family car was 79. Busted brown Chevy Nova from a mile away. You could hear it coming over on any given day. And it rained like a cockroach running from a bottle of rain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We only have 6 channels on broken TV. Channel 13 and Sesame Street. Letter is B and the number is 3. Tennis, macaroni, government shit. Macaroni and government shit. We always had a dog and it would roam around free, terrorize the neighborhood and drive my mama crazy. She would take it for a ride and drop it off far away, and it would swim back home from across the bay. We once had a horse. Don't ask me why. Okay. It was before I was born and they was barely getting by, but they still managed to scrape some money so they could get 1, 2, 3, 4,
0344 499 1000. It's Imani Coppola, who has a new album coming out soon, which I've heard, and is incredible. And I'm not just saying that because I adore her. I think it's probably her best album ever. It's amazing. It's amazing. You've heard a couple of the songs.
Yeah.
It's incredible. That song is previously unreleased. You can only get that at the digital download of the song, of the album that my record label released, Unsung. So if you go to iTunes, Unsung, Imani Coppola, there's 5 previously unreleased tracks. Just feel we need to relax a little bit after Stephen Tobolowsky there.
Oh, gosh.
Wasn't he
we laughed
wonderful?
so much.
Oh, it was funny.
And some of those stories we'd heard before because of the podcast,
Yeah.
which, by the way, you've got to subscribe to. What a great podcast that is. Just a storyteller.
What I tell you was great is there's like 80 episodes. I've heard 5 of them. So I got over 75 hours worth of what I know is going to be brilliant. And he's got another 10 episodes coming out. Oh, thank you, sir. My thigh is burning, and I'll tell you why. Because I've got some Olbus oil on my handkerchief. And I've put it in my pocket. It's been there all day. And it's seeping through to my thigh. And my thigh is now feeling alive.
Decongested.
Alive. Energized. Energized.
I've heard of putting Vicks on your feet, but never Olbus oil on your thighs.
Olbus oil on your ding dong. Imagine putting Vicks on your ding dong or your lady putang.
Don't.
No, do not.
That happened to my
It
cousin.
Killed her, didn't it?
No, it didn't kill her. She was
Oh.
a baby.
Oh,
do you remember when
what?
when we were kids? Do you remember that your mum we used to have this massive tub of Vaseline.
Yes. So
And
we
people
had
that had babies had massive tubs of Vaseline. You
Yeah.
put Vaseline on the bums as a kind of, stops them getting nappy rash and
Well-
stuff. Well, my auntie, who wasn't the mother of the child, my oldest cousin, and not used to changing babies' bums, got a massive wadge of what she thought was Vaseline and whacked it on the baby's bum, and it was Vicks.
Oh, yay.
Kid went through the roof.
Oh! Oh!
Yeah, she's a bit older than me. I think it stopped smarting about 2 years ago.
Hi, Chihuahua, guys. Hello, dear listener. This is the Late Night Alternative. I'm Iain Lee. Who are you?
Catherine Boyle.
It's a late-night phone-in show like they used to be in the old days, in that it's hit and miss, but the hits are incredible. And do you know what? The misses are worth listening to as well, because they can be car crashes. And you don't get car crashes on radio anymore. You don't get people doing stuff that might not work. Everything is very neatly planned out and is very safe, and there's a posse. You've got a posse in and everyone's laughing at the host and all of that stuff. Very few shows where you got a chance where actually it could be boring, it could be awful, it could go badly wrong, it could be gags that fall flat on their arse and actually reveal. That could happen. So,
as it does in real life.
Exactly. So if you want to give us a call, 0344 499 1000. You've got Amy answering the phones tonight. She will answer the call, take your name and number. It costs you pennies, right? Probably free for most of you. Cost you pennies. But here's the rub. She then calls you straight back. And then you come on the air. We don't ask you what you want to talk about. We don't audition you. There's no interrogation process. Everyone is welcome to come on and talk about whatever they want. And 12 minutes past 12 on a Thursday night, Friday morning. I mean, that's kind of that's a very peculiar, cosmic time, I think. So if there's anything that's on your mind, anything you want to get off your chest, now would be a great time to give us a call. I'm going to be honest. I can't stop thinking about Stephen. I've got a man crush on him.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was going to be good. It was even better. What a generous man as well. I sent him an email. You don't suppose you fancy coming on our show? Sure. When and what time? Thursday? Okay, I'll be on at 11 your time. Great, thanks.
The thing is, though,
generous.
at the end of every single one of his podcasts, he gives out his email address and encourages you to get in touch with him. And he means it.
Yeah. I have got rid of my email address, my public email address. For now, who knows what's going to happen at some point in the future, but for now, the public email address is gone. The contact me form on iainlee.com has gone. My private email address, I'm in the process of closing down. It's tricky because I can't remember who I've got, but I'm closing that down. Got a new private email address, Catherine, and if you're lucky, I may give it to you. And
if you're lucky, I may respond.
I'm off Twitter in as much as my @IainLee is gone for now. Again, these things might change. Gone for now. And the 7A, the record label one that I do, I'm sharing that with Glenn. my business partner Glenn. So we're both kind of doing it. Twitter has been deleted off my phone. It's beautiful. Feels very blissful. And I've been doing a couple of periscopes recently. So if you want to follow me on there, you can, because I don't have Twitter. It won't flash up in your Twitter feed that I'm doing it. Did a periscope last night. Periscope today. Just trying to check in with the universe and try and get a little bit creative. Again, try and get a little bit creative. That's what we want to do. And make some cool things. And we have got some cool things happening. Got lots of live shows. Manchester is almost sold out. Brighton has almost sold out. Luton has almost sold out. And the Shaftesbury Fringe, those ones are up now. If you want to get tickets for those shows, iainlee.com/event. I've got to sort out Glasgow. The date is booked. I just need to set the ticket thing up. Belfast, we have a date. They're kind of not great at getting back. But we have a date. When did I say it was? It was July, Belfast?
June or July? July
is definitely Glasgow. Anyway, June or July. I just need they're setting the tickets. So these things are happening, and I need to chase up Joe McGrath for the Magic Christian screening.
Yeah, because the next Rabbit Hole picture show is sold out.
Sold out ages
Thanks
ago.
Mostly to Brossettes.
Yeah, sold out. A load of people coming who aren't our crowd. Boy, they're in for a shock.
They are.
They're in for a shock. So that's kind of an update on the old news. Let us say hello to Rainbow George and hello to Ken.
Hello.
Hello there. Good morning, Ian and Catherine and Rainbow George.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night. What have you guys got for us tonight in your mystical plate of
Well,
bullshit?
that was really lovely with Stephen.
He was good, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was excellent and thought-provoking. I wanted you to ask him when he was receiving information about people, did he ever communicate with whoever was sending him that information?
Well, we didn't ask him that, and that's one of those things we'll have to ponder. I kind of got the feeling that he said that it was when he was initially exploiting that, and I use the word exploiting in its true meaning, when he was initially exploiting that skill, it was one of the worst periods of his life.
Yes, but he was receiving information, so
Yes.
I just wonder if he ever tried to communicate with whoever was sending him that information.
Well,
do any of his podcasts go?
I don't know.
deep at all?
I've listened to 4. There are 80 so far.
Here's an idea. Why don't you email him?
No, don't.
He
Don't.
encourages
No,
it.
Don't.
Email him.
Don't. I don't think so.
Why not?
Okay, well, you do what you got to do. I just don't think that's a great thing to put these two in touch. Anyway, Ken, what would you like to say?
Yes, I was very interested in your earlier discussion about the horrible Waco deaths and when they followed the David Koresh cult.
Yes.
This is I remember that. I think we lived in Canada at the time. What year was that?
Was it 93?
Yes.
93, I think, when it all kicked off, so to speak.
93.
Horrendous,
right?
yeah. A lot of people died.
Horrendous. However, the thing about that was, although it was a horrible cult, there was relatively only a few people were fooled by this Koresh and his teachings.
Well, in terms of the then I guess 5.5-6 billion people in the world, yes, but I think about 120 people burnt to death, so significant number of loss of life.
Oh, and also, there are still people in Waco who believe he's coming back and who are still revering.
Can you
Koresh.
believe that, Ken? That there are nut jobs who think a dead guy's coming back?
Say that again, Jay?
Can you believe that there are nut jobs who think a dead guy's coming back?
Oh, there are many, many nut jobs, as you say, around the world. However, there is a coming false Messiah who will deceive almost the whole world. This is not...
Is that Jeremy
not
Clarkson?
too far away. No.
Boris Johnson?
It's going to be the Antichrist. He is going to arise out of the new European state of 10 kingdoms. The present 27-state Europe will collapse in the future and be revived into 10 kingdoms. And this Antichrist will come out of the 10 kingdoms, and he will deceive the whole world and especially the nation of Israel.
George, what do you reckon?
I reckon Ken really doesn't know what he's talking about. And
School him.
Sorry?
School him.
Well, I'm saying the whole Jesus story is a mythical story that has deeper meaning to it, and the Jesus you believe in, Ken, he was supposed to come back when the generation he was speaking to was still alive.
No, that's not so, George. Jesus said that the generation that is alive, when the prophecies he speaks about takes place, they will see all things happen. And when the people see the return of the revelation of the Messiah, that generation will see the return of Jesus. So we have to rightly divide the scriptures, George. However, this man is going to be worshipped throughout the world. He's called the man of sin. He is the Antichrist. And he is going to enter the world into a new world economic order where the world is going to be forced to take a mark.
Imagine. I can't begin to imagine what it feels like to be so full of fear and trepidation of the future, and so worried about some ghost stories. I mean, I just can't imagine. Well, I know, because you got Jesus of protection, all of that. But I can't begin to. Let me finish. I've let you spout your nonsense. I just can't begin to imagine what it feels like to be so worried about this stuff that may or may not happen. To have your life governed by it. Just get on with your life. Why not just get on with your life?
Ian, I am full of joy. I'm not full of...
No, you're not. You're full of bitterness and spite and hatred and selfishness. You're very narcissistic.
I'm full of joy, not depression.
No, you're not. You're full of... There you go. You had to do a little... You had to do a little dig, didn't you? You had to... Ken, engage in a conversation. Focus. Look at me. You had to do a little dig. Imagine being so fearful that you build your belief around this fairy story, and you're so worried that you've got it wrong that you have to mock people for their mental health. You have to belittle people for worshipping. Let me finish, Ken. You have to belittle people for worshipping brown gods. You have to be terrified of men who put their penises inside other men. Imagine. I can't begin to imagine what it's like living in your scared little world.
I can assure you I am not fearful in any way of these situations. I am telling you because I love you.
You're terrified of men putting their willies in other men's bums.
Now, you are perverted in your heart, my
No,
friend.
I'm not, because I don't see anything wrong. What's perverted about... What's perverted? Ken, are you... Ken?
With sex.
Ken, well, I am, and that is a problem I'm... Ken, that is a problem... Ken, can I finish, mate? That's a problem I'm dealing with. Yes, I do have issues around sex, but you have issues around gay men. And I wondered why.
Of course I don't.
You think that's perverted?
Nonsense.
You think that gay men are? You think gay men are not perverted? Great, fantastic. Well, that's wonderful. That's progress. That's progress.
Is a perverted act.
Sodomy. They've all got it. Sodomy. Okay.
God is against it.
No, he's not, Ken. It doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that a man can't put his willy anywhere near another man. It doesn't say that. That's nonsense, and you know it's nonsense. So imagine living a life so full of fear, so full of fear of other people who do things slightly differently, that you have to invest all of your time into talking nonsense about a European 10-state Antichrist that's coming. You called me the Antichrist at one point. Make your mind up, Ken. Who is the Antichrist?
I'm not fearful of anything.
Who is the Antichrist, Ken? Is it me? Because it was me 6 months ago.
No, it's not you.
It was me 6 months ago. You did call me the Antichrist.
I didn't. I said
you did.
You have the spirit of Antichrist.
No, you called me. No. You called me the Antichrist. Whereas you're an You're an Islamophobe. You're a homophobe. You're an everything-ophobe. You're a horrible, bitter, twisted little man who's afraid.
I said you are.
No, I know exactly what you said. You put the word. You put the word "the" in front of it. I remember it very, very well, George.
I did not.
Oh, mate, and you're a liar. You're a liar as well as a homophobe and an Islamophobe. And a joyphobe.
Tell the truth. You're a troubled man and you need Jesus.
I'm a troubled man. I don't need Jesus. What I need is medication and psychiatric help, and I'm getting both of those things. So thanks very much for your call, Ken. Now go away and go and crawl back into your little hole. Yes, George.
Yeah. I I'm still thinking about Stephen.
Okay, well, you carry on thinking about that. We're going to go to the ads.
The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee. Unfiltered night talk with the original king of unconventional conversation on Talk Radio.
We have ways of making you talk.
0344 499 1000 is the phone number. Let's go to Ryan. Good evening, Ryan. Sheena, you'll be next. Do stay there, please. Hello, Ryan.
Oh, good evening. How you doing?
I'm all right. What have you got for us?
I was phoning up for another car crash. I phoned you this time last week for a generic conversation, sort of a unprepared one, and you sort of fired into me a bit about how it's not I should phone this sort of radio station. So I've been listening over the last week a bit more because I sort of explained to you at the time I was sort of having a bit of trouble and I was staying up a bit late more recently. So I thought I'll listen to it, give it a chance. And loads of people seem to phone up for generic conversations. So I still can't work out what I did wrong.
Well, no, because you didn't phone up for a generic conversation. You just phoned up and said, I've got nothing to say. Go on, what do you want to talk about? That's not a generic conversation. That's no conversation. That's making me do all the work. And I do quite enough work as it is.
Well, yeah, all
so
right,
that was the point.
It's more.
And you've had a whole week to think about it, and you didn't get the point.
No, but that's the thing. So I'm phoning back. So it was more of a bounce-off thing anyway. All right, I was just sort of giving it a chance, trying to work it out. After a week,
stop deconstruct. Why are you Well, I've just told you the answer. So stop deconstructing it. Stop, going all meta on my ass. And what do you want to talk about tonight?
No, I'm asking you for suggestions. Sort of like, what do you suggest?
Exactly the same. This
is
exactly the same thing you did last week. You phoned up and said, I want to have a chat, but I've got nothing to talk about. What should I talk about? I'm doing enough work here, Ryan. Don't give me more work to do. I'm doing plenty of work.
I've been trying to see. I'm having a look on the webpage, Talk Radio One, and on Twitter, but not on that. So it's like, well, I'm trying to sort of gauge how to approach it. I'm sort of asking it. It's just, I'm going to keep doing this until I get it right.
Well, if you keep phoning up saying I've been deconstructing last week and I still can't work out, when I phone up and say I'd like to chat but I've got nothing to talk about, why you get angry with me? I don't understand it. If you're going to keep doing that every week, well, we'll just stop answering your call.
Well, that's not. No, I'm not. No, I don't want to do that, do I? What I was trying to say
then don't keep phoning up doing that, then, because I don't want you to do that.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm not really getting anywhere again. I was hoping that it might move forward slightly. But
okay, what do you want to talk about then?
I don't know. That's cool.
There is the stumbling. There is the stumbling.
I can't work out what the show's about.
The show isn't about anything. But people phoning up saying I want to talk, but I haven't got anything to talk about. Well, where do I go with that?
I'll have to pick a subject.
Well, that's twice. That's twice you've done it.
Well, okay. I thought I'd try and just get myself a bit prepared last time. But I'll say the way you approached the last call and things like that is just absolutely crap me up. So I've got absolutely no way of sort of gauging.
There's a yellow card. Don't swear again, otherwise you will get banned.
Sorry, you're not.
Of course you're not allowed to say the F word on radio, you absolute idiot. Right.
I thought it was at night. I thought you were allowed at night.
No, of course you're not allowed at night. Right. Here's the thing. You got meta and you deconstructed your side of the call. Shall I get meta and deconstruct my side of the call?
Well, okay. You lot did call Pink Panther a prick once. That's why I phoned up ages ago.
You didn't call him an effing
so
prick, though,
threw
did
me
he?
off.
Yeah. So
No. Yeah, you're right.
See, here's the thing. Well, here's one of the things you need to do. You need to learn to listen. This is what I'd like you to practice over the week. Listen, because I just asked you a question which you ignored. Go on, ask it again. It means you didn't hear it.
Okay. I'm sorry. I do need to learn to listen. You are correct.
There you go. Well, that's something. Did you hear the question that I asked?
I didn't know.
Right. I said, you have deconstructed your side of the call.
Oh, well, you'll have to deconstruct yours, yes, sorry.
Not what I said. Would you please shut up and learn to listen? This is a lesson in listening. I said, you had deconstructed your side of the call. Would you like me to deconstruct mine?
Okay. Sorry. I did. Yeah. Sorry. Go on then, of course.
Right. Maybe this side of the call is part of the show.
Okay. As in, like, you bounce off what offered to you?
Now we're getting somewhere. That was actually a bigger leap than I was expecting you to make.
Okay. I do apologise then, because I was trying to do that off you last week, but I thought you might have a loose subject matter for me to at least fire into, because I didn't get a chance to listen. I just phoned, and I wasn't trying to be rude by doing that. It's just that I knew that you were on, And then I just thought, I've got kids in bed. I couldn't really have it on, so I just phoned up. So, there you go.
But do you not see what I'm saying? That maybe this phone call is the show. Maybe this phone call is perfect for the show.
It's probably not very good listening, though, is it?
Who cares? Don't worry about those guys. Those guys are losers. Everyone that listens to this is a loser, right? Forget them. All that's important right now is me, you, and Kath, right? And maybe, just maybe...
But you just called me a loser.
Well, yeah, you are. We all are. We're all late night losers. Welcome to the club.
Oh, cool.
But maybe this phone call where we're arguing about you not understanding how the phone calls to this show work, maybe this phone call is the perfect phone call for the show.
Look, it's in an advert for how not to approach it or to approach it.
Nope.
Or not.
As the case may be.
Okay, well, there you go. Perfect.
It's not perfect.
No one's listening, so it doesn't
You
matter
keep talking. You keep worrying about the listeners. Why? Don't worry about them. There's no one listening.
You worried about listeners?
That's not
You're obviously not. So
I'm not.
There you go.
There's no one listening. There's either no one listening or there's an infinite number of people listening at the same time. It doesn't matter.
It's my Britishness doing the embarrassment thing for you. Then sorry.
This call may be perfect for the show. It may be the show, or it may be awful for the show. Wow, now we're going into Schrodinger's cat.
Open the box, see what's in it.
No, once you open the box, it's over.
Depends how long it's been there, doesn't
It's
it?
while the box is shut. That's the. It's while the box is shut, and has the gas been fired off or not? Poison gas. Everyone forgets the poison gas part of Schrodinger's cat. Everyone forgets the gas.
I never knew the time limit bit either, because I thought if it's like 8 months later, it's pretty obvious. Excuse me, sorry.
So how would you feel if I said this was tonight, apart from our guests, that this call, Ryan, is the best call of the night, in terms of what the show is? Yeah, mind blown, huh? Mind blown.
I might have a good day tomorrow from that. I tend to seem to need that.
Mind blown.
I phone up the radio a lot.
Who else do you phone up? What other shows? What other stations?
No other stations. I couldn't get into LBC. If I get into any James O'Brien, it'd be game over.
Okay.
Mike Graham. I phone him a lot. Juliana Brewer, if I could be bothered that morning, early in the morning, she gets wound up with something. And Eamon, speak to him a bit.
Oh, does Eamon work here? Sometimes. You're lucky to find the shows he's in. Well, there you go. Listen, they're all great shows, but they are all great shows. I'm fans of all of them. But here's the not problem. Here's the conundrum. You're used to phoning very traditional phone-in shows where they've asked you a specific question. We don't ask.
Yeah.
We very rarely do me or Kath ask you a specific question. It's more ambient than that.
Well, that's what I'd like to tap into, because I do have to stop and gear myself into whatever I'm chatting and sort of tone it down a bit as I'm going.
Well,
I did get told off by Mike Graham the other day.
Oh,
so
good. But here's the thing. We've been talking for about 8 minutes about nothing. This is a very zen phone call.
Is it just the music making you say that?
No. It's the perfection of the phone call.
Sort of the full circle thing.
Yeah, maybe. So well done. It's
Nice.
That's less
Got
than
somewhere.
That's less. Well, no, we got nowhere.
Well, but we are revolving.
I'd quit while I was ahead if I were you. You've just taken lesson 2. Congratulations.
Nice.
Look forward to speaking to you again, Ryan. Thank you for your call.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Poor Ryan.
That was the perfect call that encapsulates this show. He's learning. He's got a long way to go.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
He's used to ringing up shows and being prepared to have an argument about something he pretends he cares about more than he does.
Yeah.
Don't have to do that on this show. Just come on and be Ryan.
And that was it. Beginning was a little bit rusty, but there were moments. And when I say the perfect call, that's just like it wasn't quite, but there were moments, pure moments, where that phone call was floating an inch above the ground, just for like a second, and then it hit the ground again, because we started thinking about it. That's the thing about Zen, right? Everyone has moments of Zen, but then you go, oh, I'm having a moment of Zen.
Yeah.
Balls, it just ended.
Yeah, self-consciousness.
Just ended. And that was it. We were floating above the ground for an inch, just for a second, then we both went, one of us or both of us went, oh, we're floating, boom, and we hit. That's what it was, so thank you for that, Ryan. I enjoyed that. Let's go to Sheena. Good evening, Sheena.
Hello.
Hello,
again.
Sheena. Hello, Sheena. I'm trying to think of songs with the name Sheena in, and all I can think of is...
Punk rocker.
Sheena is a punk rocker.
Sheena is a punk rocker. There must be, because Sheena. It's a good name for two-syllable boom boom name.
Who is it? Did Sheena's in a goth gang? There's that one.
Sheena's in a goth gang.
Done by a vaguely cool band, but I can't remember.
Was that after Sheena was a punk rocker? She progressed to being in a goth gang.
Oh,
Possibly. Oh, God. And who was it? The Horrors did Sheena as a Parasite, which I wasn't very pleased
Oh,
about.
here we go. Hang on a second. Let's have a bit... Oh, no, it's an advert which you've not paid to advertise on this radio station, so you can kiss it.
I
Here we go.
haven't.
No, not you. Hang on. Here we go.
She's digging up the graveyard.
Oh.
Black lips and toenails. A brand new bat wing at the county jail. Like Tammy Trapeze.
Okay, that's the Cramps and the rather disappointing Sheena's in a goth gang.
It was the Cramps. I thought that.
And there was it the Cramps who did and filmed a gig in, I'm going to use a phrase that we don't use anymore, but in a lunatic asylum. Was it the Cramps that did that?
I wouldn't put it past them, but
they filmed.
I'd need
I'm
to
sure they
Google.
filmed a gig in what used to be called a lunatic asylum, and it was filmed, and everybody in the audience was allowed to go wild.
Yeah, live at the Napa State Mental Hospital.
There, you're like the Napa State Mental Hospital. My goodness gracious me!
That would have been a lovely day for all the patients, though, wouldn't it?
Not the
Like-
Cramps, they're rubbish. I don't really know the Cramps oeuvre. But yeah, it would have been
but
nice.
If a band was playing, you'd just be like, brilliant, this is...
When was
out,
when did
like-
that? 1979? 78. Imagine being, what's it called, Napa State?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine being a patient in Napa State Mental Institute in 1978. I bet that was grim. I bet that was very, very grim. I mean, obviously, we're all thinking of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I bet it was bleak.
I wonder how many of them has to go back to their rooms?
Well, no, like, even psychiatric units over here in the 80s were still like that up until, like, early 90s.
Well, yeah, in the 80s, 90s, they were still using, like, old Victorian asylums.
Yeah.
Oh, God, grim.
There's actually one at the end of my road that used to be an asylum. It's lovely houses now.
Where's that, Colney Hatch?
Penge.
Penge, very, very Monty Python word, Penge.
Yeah.
Well, it comes
Penge.
from Penge.
Yeah, Penge.
Penge.
They like to call it.
Penge.
Very nice houses. Can't afford to live in them.
Well, there you go. What can we do for you tonight, Sheena, who is not a punk rocker, nor is she a goth, as far as we know?
Oh, I was, well, because I listened from the beginning, so I was the Talking Heads. Have you seen the documentary now, kind of parody, but it's like a loving parody of Talking Heads?
Oh, now, this is the series with Fred Armisen, is it?
Yeah.
We like Fred Armisen
Yeah,
from
we do.
Portlandia, and they did a series, him and someone else did a series of very...
Bill Hader,
very accurate spoof series of documentaries. And I watched the first one, which I think was a spoof of Grey Gardens.
Yes.
And I didn't laugh once. I thought the accuracy was spot on, but in being accurate, they'd forgotten to kind of make it entertaining. So I
Yeah,
didn't get
I
any
find
further
that.
than that. I didn't know there is a Talking Heads pastiche, is there?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't watched all the episodes because I'm the same, like, although I find a lot of comedy, I'll go like, oh, that is funny, but I'm not, like, laughing out loud. But the Talking Heads one, I think they're called Test Pressing or something.
Oh.
It's just absolutely, it's just spot on.
Oh,
just
I might
the
have some of
whole
that
thing.
tomorrow then, because I like. We're big fan. You've seen Portlandia? Have you?
I've watched a bit of it, but I don't really.
Don't like it. Didn't make laugh.
I think you had to watch a few to get it.
I don't think.
like Fred Armisen.
Hang on a minute. You just recommended the Fred Armisen show, basically.
No, I just don't like him. Like, he's tolerable in small amounts for me.
Oh, see, I like him. Have you not seen on Netflix? There was a one-man special.
Comedy for drummers.
Comedy for drummers. Oh well, you'll hate it, Sheena. It's an hour of Fred Armisen. I thought it was.
I will give it a go.
man.
I always give things a go.
You'll hate it.
It's funny.
You'll absolutely hate it. It's literally just Fred Armisen. Fred Armisen.
Oh,
Fred Armisen.
no.
Fred Armisen.
But he is talented, isn't he? So I guess.
Well, but you
know,
hate him. Here's the thing. Can I make a prediction, Sheena?
Yeah.
You're going to marry Fred Armisen.
Oh.
You're going to phone us up one day and go, you remember? Right, you're not going to believe this. Do you remember about 3 years ago? I phoned you up, right, and I said, I don't really like Fred Armisen. He's talented. You're never going to believe it.
Yeah.
I married him last week, and I'm pregnant with his baby.
Actually, there is something. There is something in that. My first boyfriend, I thought he was an awful prick for years and years, and then I suddenly realised that I fancied him.
And it was Fred Armisen.
Yeah.
I do go through phases of really thinking awful men are great, and they're often quite talented. So I wouldn't be surprised, although he's with Wasser Chops, isn't he? Natasha Lyonne.
Well,
So-
here's the thing. There was this young lad. This is a true story. There was this young lad. There was me. It was me. It happened to me, actually. I remember it. And I was a kid, and our next door neighbour, this guy called Freddie. And I remember waking up one day, and he had loads of soldiers in his back garden. And I said to my dad, Dad, why? Who are all these soldiers in the garden next door? And he said, oh, it's Fred's army son. Yeah? Fred's army son. Yeah, she liked it. Sheena liked it.
That's why she doesn't like Fred Armisen.
Yeah.
Fred's Armisen.
No,
That's
I
not
think
bad.
it's because I've read like rumours, and then I've gone right. That's it.
Oh, no, I read
leave
rumours.
them until
I
they're-
read, there was a whole expose I read online, 10 reasons why Fred Armisen is a scumbag, right? He cheated on his wife, which isn't great, but it's not like the whole Ryan Adams thing that's coming out. He struggled to be faithful, and maybe he dumped... I mean, I read it and I went... all right. I mean, it's not the... But
I think the difficulty
He's
is
not R. Kelly.
Elizabeth
He's not got kids in the
Elizabeth
basement.
Moss, who was his wife, is a bit of a hero,
Yeah.
so you're going to side with her.
But
'cause
that's
she's
great.
brilliant.
Like, it's not as people may have missed that. Sheena said he's not R. Kelly. He's not got kids in his basement, and you're absolutely
Which reminds me,
Oh, yeah.
R. Kelly's in more hot water.
yes.
Everyone's going to be absolutely staggered. Michael Avenatti, who's been representing Stormy Daniels.
Okie dokie.
Right, so
yes.
now he is acting on behalf of someone who is bringing a fresh video of R. Kelly apparently having sex with a 14-year-old.
Come on.
In a situation almost identical to that one back in the 90s.
That's not enough to bring him down. Dear God, come on, what is?
Well, the fact was they saw the video, saw him do it in the video, but they'd left it so long so no one would go, oh, you poor child. She was a 20-year-old girl who'd probably learned how to cope. So they were just like, yeah, just throw it out. It was so obvious.
They're still pally, apparently, as are her family. So something's gone on.
Listen, I've been late for all the ads so far. I've been late for this one. So, Sheena, I'm going to say thank you very much. Good luck. I hope you and Fred are very happy together.
Oh, okay.
Thank
cool,
you.
Thank
Speak to you later on, Sheena. Thanks very much. Yes, we've got a load of calls for some reason at this time of night. We never have. Giselle, Clive, stay there. Come to in a bit. This is the Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee and Catherine Boyle on Talk Radio.
Late night conversation worth losing sleep over. The Late Night Alternative with Iain Lee on Talk Radio.
We have ways of making you talk.
Paul Ross is on at 1 o'clock. Iain Lee and Catherine Boyle here for now. Let's go to Giselle. Good evening, Giselle.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Do you know what? I'm a little bit better than I was yesterday. I've got to be up early tomorrow. I'm going to go. It's one of those things where you get to go and hang out with your kids at school for 45 minutes and look at their work tomorrow morning at 8, which I'm looking forward. I'm not looking forward to getting up. I'm looking forward to doing that. That's going to be fun. I'm all right.
That's really good to hear that.
Thanks, man. What you got for us, Giselle?
I find it better if I ring up without an agenda, really. But I just wanted to say that I've had a really good night tonight.
May we ask
wanted to
why your
share.
night was good? Did anything happen, or was it just peaceful? Was it spiritual? Was it what happened?
So I went out to an open mic night, and one of the things with me is my doctor tells me that I need to integrate more because I tend to.
I'd tell my doctor to F off if he said that, and then I'd slam the phone down on him. That's a joke, kind of, because I'm not actually at the doctor's, I'm on the phone. Sorry, carry on.
Yes, well, she does say to me, you need to integrate yourself more rather than being fixated on finding a specific person that can help you when you're vulnerable, or words to that effect.
Okay.
And so I've been trying, and I do find socialising quite exhausting. I feel like if I go out and have to socialise, I need a couple of days to recover. But I went out to an open mic night on Tuesday, and I went out again tonight. And over the last 6 months to a year, I've been trying to introduce myself to people, which I don't find very easy.
What, like strangers and stuff?
Yeah.
Going up to them?
Wow.
Flipping heck, Giselle, you're making my... Honestly, I'm not even joking, my heart is going now.
Can't do that.
Going up to strangers and going, what? Like, going... Hi, my name's Giselle, and
it would be weird if you said that.
I'm an addict, yes, and I want to fight you. And I've got knives, so I want to fight you outside in the alleyway with the knives. Is that the kind of thing you're doing?
When I went to an open mic night fairly recently at one particular venue, I knew one person there.
Yeah.
I don't want to rely on other people to kind of break ice for me. But I got to the point where I was feeling a bit rubbish, not particularly bad, but it got to the point where I was sort of propping up the bar, not in a way that I was drunk or anything, but literally I was leaning against it. And I got to the point where I'd stood up for about 2 hours because my brain was telling me, and this is the BS that brains give you, obviously, but... I didn't deserve to sit down, and that nobody wanted to speak to me, and why would they want to speak to me, and various things like that. And I just feel like, I just made some progress, and it's something that I probably have found the hardest thing. I struggled to make friends at school, and I just, my social circle isn't particularly big. But when I went out tonight, to an open mic night, there were a lot of musicians that I knew that were playing, and so I didn't kind of sit on the steps going into the upstairs bit of the bar where I was kind of isolated myself from talking to people. I managed to speak to at least half a dozen people, if not more. And I just feel like I had quite a good night, even though, I probably will sleep till God knows what time because I'm quite, and emotionally a bit drained from it.
Yeah, sleep though.
I just feel like I had a positive night, and me being me, I don't really have anybody to tell that to. So I thought I'd phone the radio.
Hey, nice one. No, that's inspiring. Thank you. Well, don't worry about content. Screw the C word. On a human interest level, that's very inspiring and that's beautiful. This sounds a bit patronising, but I'm proud of you. Well done. And you've given us all a lot for our brains to chew over.
Really?
So thank you very much, Giselle, and well done.
What's
next? This weekend you're going to go out and do what do they call? Are you going to do like a one person flash mob? Is that what you're going to do? You're going to go door to door, just knocking and asking if you bob a job? Anything? What's the next plan? Bob a job.
I definitely think people would slam the door in my face.
Well, maybe. Hey, Giselle, listen, I'm going to take one more call, and then I can see Paul inching in. He likes to come in.
I don't want to gate cross Paul Ross.
No. But listen, well done. That's brilliant news. That's great. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. I'm really pleased you're doing better.
Cheers. Thank you, Giselle. Let's go. Come in, Paul. Oh, he's gone. He's such a dick. Sorry, I just called Paul Ross a dick. I do apologise. That was completely unnecessary. But he was
in the airlock between the two doors,
ducking up and down with the light under his face, so he looks terrible. Let's quickly.
I can rock that look, girlfriend.
Let's go to Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hi, Ian. How are you?
I think we just answered that. What have you got for us?
I think you did actually. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right. No worries.
I've been meaning to phone up for a while. Last October, I lost my dad.
Oh, mate, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he suffered a stroke in July, and then went through to October and passed away. And before that, up to now, for the past 18 months, I've been taking fluoxetine for antidepressant and anxiety that I've suffered. And I've never been very open in talking about things. I've always kept it closed up. But, I got introduced by a friend to your show, and I've really felt that I wanted to phone up to say thank you to you, because listening to you and hearing you open up about issues and that sort of thing has allowed me to talk about it. So it's just a quick thank you.
So
really.
hey, listen. So you've been speaking to your friend about stuff that's going on?
Yeah. I
Partly
mean,
because of us.
Yeah, I have.
Wow,
Yeah,
there you go,
I
that's wicked.
spoke to my friend, and he actually said you should listen to a fellow called Iain Lee on Talk Radio, and I said, okay, I'll give it a listen.
He don't shut up about that stuff. He's a nut job, and he keeps banging on about it all the time.
Well, it's but you know what, it's mass masculinity, I called it, that I had, and I was happy to open up. So this is the first time I've called, and just it was just to say thank you, really.
Hey, wicked, Clive. Listen, I really appreciate that. I'm really sorry for the loss of your dad. I think it's a tough one. It's always a tough one. And if it's only October, that's still recent. So it's going to be raw, man. And well done for sharing that stuff, because I think it's important. So well done.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, carry on the good work, and nice. you've got a listener for a long time. Thanks very much.
I'll piss you off at some point, Clive. Honestly, I will annoy you at some point. You'll send me an angry tweet or a text, and then you'll never listen again. It happens to everybody, and Kath will back me up. Clive, listen, we'll speak again soon. Take care.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, man. There we go.
What a lovely call.
What a nice guy. Hello, Paul Ross.
Good morning. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks very much.
Quietly confident tonight.
Ooh,
or this morning. Quietly confident.
Sounds cocky to me.
Well, because I expect you both to be surprised and impressed. We're going to the Yukon, to a place called Takini, okay? That's his Inuit name. They're in the middle of the White Horse Festival.
Yes.
And one of the elements of that festival is people come from all over North America, as they would. They have a hair freezing competition. You immerse your hair in water, flick it up, and then try and hold it upright as it freezes in the air. Some of the photographs are astonishing. If you put in hair freezing competition, and we are talking to one of the main men from this particular organisation, what a wonderful... They're doing loads of other stuff as well.
Who cares?
But it's the hair freezing I want to find out
Who
about.
needs to do studio line?
So it's a proper, you can imagine that the proper heavy metal headbanger guys are going up there, and they do it. They look like clown hats. Their beards freeze as well. Fantastic.
Incredible.
Look at that dude. I'm in. Hang on a minute. Look at that! Look at that, man!
We've been after this for a few days now. Fair play to the team for tracking them down, because they're busy, obviously. Basically, I think it's an excuse to get hugely drunk in the land of the midnight sun, but it's an amazing idea. Look!
He's like a Leningrad cowboy. Look at that!
Serious business.
Look at her!
And on a slightly more serious note, we are marking 80 years since the end of the Spanish Civil War. So it's a mixed bag of a programme tonight.
Frozen eyebrows.
Yeah,
oh, mate.
The end of the Spanish Civil
These
War.
idiots. It looks like a London cheesecake. Look. Oh, that's wicked.
Talk about the Spanish Civil War, though. I've got friends in Spain, and it's living memory for them. Their grandparents remember
and
it.
And there's that hideous, remarkable mausoleum that Franco had built with slave labour.
Oh God,
which is a tribute to his. I mean, I visited once. It's one of the darkest places I've ever been.
And they're still finding mass graves of entire villages and stuff. Awful.
So we're talking about that on the programme as well, and also somebody listening, somebody we're speaking to needs your help. Wonderful woman. She runs a small local kind of dog rescue charity. I had no idea. You know, in the UK, to end on a bit of a downer, folks.
Oh God,
we put down 8,000 dogs a year in the UK alone.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Which means I must have known that at some point. It's horrendous, isn't it?
But there's a woman who runs she's been running it for a while, Shrewsbury Way, and they need premises now urgently. They've been looking since October. They've got 2 weeks left where they are. Yeah. So we're talking to her, and somebody listening might know somebody who can possibly help. So all kinds of stuff on the programme, and the usual old tosh.
That's how these things work. What it takes is someone listening who go, oh, well, what about Steve? Might, then they join the dots and these things happen.
Hope so.
Well, good luck. I feel I should end on something profound, but I've got nothing profound to say. It's just it's kind of...
How about this?
Here we go.
He who walks with a limp runs with a hop.
He's good. Paul Ross is good.
I mean, that's why he gets the big bucks.
We're done, I think. We haven't got any guests tomorrow night, have we?
No.
There'll be... tonight felt easy because we had an hour and a half of guests.
I mean, Stephen Tobolowsky.
Wow. Man.
What a storyteller.
Do check out his podcast. I always get the title. I always get... Well, hang on a minute. Jerry, we're just finishing, mate. What are you doing?
I'm just going through a rough time, but I'm listening to you.
Give us a call. You're going through a rough time?
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
I've lost my appetite.
Well, give us a call tomorrow and we're going to sort it. We're going to fix it. We're going to solve everything. We're going to cure your Parkinson's. I've been working on a few things. I think I might have the cure for it. We're going to get you... We're going to make you rich.
I love the David Koresh.
You love your David Koresh. All right, good night, Jerry. We'll speak to you later on.
He is on the morphine, isn't he?
He's on the morphine.
I thought I was being profound.
Right, listen, that is it. We are done. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Amy. Dear listener, don't forget there are podcasts aplenty. We'll probably have a couple of podcasts after tonight's show with Stephen Tobolowsky and Chris Warburton as well, which we'll put out. Do check out both of their podcasts. They are both completely different, but excellent. We will be back tonight at 10 o'clock for the last show of the week, but do stay tuned because coming up after 1 o'clock, it's Paul Ross only on Talk Radio.